And so then we started the admin rules process. Okay, and looking at that, once you start admin rules process, you kind of open up a can of worms, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so once we started opening up that box, we figured out, we need to amend the county code. We need to do an ordinance amendment. So we did that first, and then we started the rules after that to reflect, to expand and reflect on the code. Yeah. And so then that took a long time, and so we were just able to get it completed. Yeah, and then, so now we're in the process of coming up with the bid package, and then we're going to go out for bid now. So that's kind of the whole process that we went through.
So the bid package isn't quite finished, but I did ask planning, and I didn't get the original SMA special management area, but it looks like there was a minor revision one, which apparently was for this building.
Mm-hmm.
So an SMA was existing, but I didn't find the SMA, but it has an SMA permit.
So there was an SMA done to construct this new building. There is also, so we reached out to planning department, and let me see, so I get the wording right. So Kaua'i said that there was a use permit issued by the planning commission back in the 80s, but the actual permit itself was lost during Iniki, so they don't have a copy of the permit itself, but there is documentation that this use permit was passed by the planning commission, and it does count as a legal entitlement that grants land use rights of the site to have commercial vending. So
Okay.
that gave you the legal.
Okay, so thank you. So when I read through it, all the council members have a copy of this document, the rules and regulations, but I tried to make it simple. It's a closed bid process for these 8 vendor stalls, and they have to bid for 5 years. Do I have that accurate?
Correct. Yeah.
So, and it says, with approval for a specified list of products that are encouraged to be made entirely or partly in Hawaii. So that didn't used to be the case, but now it's Kauai-made products or Hawaii-made products.
They're encouraged.
Encouraged.
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
can I
yep.
real quick, can I ask a question?
Please, anybody who wants to ask a question to
That's a little concerning for me because it basically opens it up to anything. They can sell anything except for the exclusions, the food and clothing and stuff. But why was that not made a condition where the products would have to be made in Hawaii?
We tried, and from the county attorney that we were working with, I don't know the legal reason, but we were able to just put encouraged in there and not require it.
That was the county attorney's opinion?
That was the county attorney that we were working with was their opinion, yeah.
Did we already go out to bid?
Prior.
Did we go out to bid for these spots yet?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay. I want to address that. I mean, I want to find out from the attorneys why, because that I'm not sure why we cannot. I mean, we just did it in Honolulu.
Yeah.
We just did it in Honolulu. I mean, it was fine. It's a county property. I cannot imagine why we would allow, if we're selling mementos and curios and stuff for the tourists. It would just make sense to me that we would make sure that products are at least Hawaii made. I mean, I don't know when you're planning to go out to bid, but I would suggest we hold off until we can get a county attorney's opinion on that, and maybe even amend the statute so that the statute would require it. But it's hard. I know we don't have much control over the rules, but we definitely have control over the statute, the ordinance. So I would like some time to explore that with the county attorney.
So if we go that route, then we would have to amend the admin rules, go through the admin rules
Right.
process again, because it's in the rules, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So and if anybody has questions anywhere along, I'm fine with that, but can you explain briefly closed bid process?
So it's a state, it's from the state, HRS 112, and it's not an open bid. It's It's not you're sitting around and people holding up.
It's not like an auction.
Yeah.
So,
It's a closed bid, so,
and it goes to the highest bidders.
and it goes to the highest bidder of
And
each stall.
is there any consideration for the tenant mix in the, or is it just who bids the most money?
Yeah. It's whoever bids the most per stall.
Whoever bids the most per stall, so we don't see what anybody else does, so people have to guess and try and go for the best. And then I was trying to see in there, is it the highest bidder who gets the best stall? I went out and looked at it and walked around, and some stalls are better than others.
So they're bidding per stall. So they can choose which stalls that they want to bid on. They can bid on all 8 if they want to, but they can only be awarded 1. So once the bid package, once everything's open, then they would say they're the highest bid for stall 1, and they're the highest bid for stall 4. Then we would make them choose which stall they wanted, and then we would award it based off of that.
Okay, and for my colleagues on page 7, you would see the stalls. And it's how it's placed relative to the ocean, the breeze, and all that. Okay, so when they have this 5-year contract, they are somewhat locked into that 5 years. They don't just quit. Is that correct?
So it's a 5-year contract, and then there's up to 2-year extension period. So they could be there for 7 years under a current contract. Yeah.
Okay. And what I saw there is in the rules, they don't get a warning when their 5 years is up. It's up to them to pay attention to that.
Yes, correct.
So, do you have a question? No. What is the expected minimum bid?
So the upset bid price is $3,500.
Okay, $3,500.
And they're bidding per month. Yeah, their bid, when they put in their bid, it's a per month cost. So
That's the rent.
that would be their rent.
Their rent per month. So that's the expected minimum rent. But the minimum bid, I thought I read in there it was $30,000.
They're bidding per month. They're not bidding like a large lump sum.
Okay.
Their bid price is based off of what they're going to pay per month.
Okay. And then what is the expected performance bond required and for how many months?
So previous contracts were 3 months, so we're just going to stick to the 3 months.
So if it was $3,500, that would be $1,250.
Times 3.
No, wait a minute,
3,500
$10.50.
times 3.
Where's my math? 10,500. They would have that in a performance bond. So if they failed somehow, they weren't showing up, the county could keep that performance bond.
Correct.
All right.
So I want to just kind of mention that we didn't create any new rules. All of these rules were in place prior in the previous contracts. All we did was formalize it into these administrative rules. So we didn't change anything or make up any new rules during this process.
Okay, so these are the existing rules.
Yes.
Thank you, because I tried to look for old rules and I couldn't find them. So these are essentially the old rules that were in a contract.
Yeah.
And so, well, that helps me feel a little better because some of the people who lost it really, really wanted to be back. So are we contacting any of our old concessionaires? Do we still have a list of who those are?
Yep.
So they can be told, so they can come in?
Yeah.
Okay, so then, can't kind of make it go, move. Okay, hold on, I'm doing it the wrong way. Huh. Can you move me forward, please? Okay, next one, please. All right, so policy and authority outline, tenant selection. So this is me reading what was there. It says finance director to investigate the qualifications for each prospective bidder and tenant determination. And that's how it goes. Or, you know, I don't know if it's Office of Economic Development that didn't exist in the past, or it would be up to you.
So it would be like how we do the rest of our bids, right? So it goes through purchasing, so that delegated authority is to the Assistant Procurement Chief Officer, right? The head of purchasing. Through that process, they're going to determine things like did they meet all the requirements of the bid? You know, whether they be disqualified or not. Did they meet the minimum bid price? Did they meet the upset price, yes or no? That's what's determining their eligibility.
Okay, so we might want to fix our rules and regulations, at least it looks like finance director. Maybe I don't understand.
Finance director is defined in the rules as finance director or authorized representative.
So the authorized representative is the, okay. And then Parks Director has the discretion to assign required duties from the concessionaires. So if somebody's doing something wrong or they need to be hosing off the area, is that what that means?
Yeah, so those types of things will probably go in the contract, but then there's a section in the rules that has the rules of operation rules, right? So all of those, so there would be, in the rules is the overarching, in the administrative rules is the overarching rules that are going to pretty much stay static, yeah.
Okay.
And then in the contract, there's the more minor rules that can fluctuate or are a little more dynamic, yeah. And so all of those, yeah, would fall under the Parks Director.
So I couldn't find history, but I didn't see any arbitration procedures in here in the code or the statute. It looks like it's at the discretion of finance or parks if somebody's out of there.
Well, it would have to be documented that they're violating rules. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It wasn't real
Because
clear.
it's a contract, yeah.
It's
So,
a contract.
yeah.
Okay, so we have the rules, but then beyond that, there's a contract.
Yeah.
Then I said, in the limitations, it said, this is a question I kept asking a couple months ago, are the contracts transferable? So they can't sell their permit.
No.
So that was something that was really important to me a couple months ago. And then I just put another, this is kind of small, but no extensions to the side or the rear or 12 inches outside the front of the concession stand, limited displays or advertising. So they just roll up that,
There's the roll-up doors, yeah.
the roll-up doors. Okay. Oops. All right. So I was reading through this, and what it felt like it said is every night they have to completely clean their piece out, or can they leave their product inside?
No, they would have to remove everything.
So they remove everything.
Yeah.
And so we already talked, the tenant mix, there is not defined. Marketing and promotion, so they have no signage outside their booths and no amplified music.
Outside of their booths.
They can have music inside the booth?
They can have not loud music.
But they have a little radio playing in the background?
Yeah.
Okay, because you got to have
That's
something to draw people in.
Yeah.
One stall per vendor. Hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. They can come in no earlier than 6 a.m. and stay no later than 7 p.m. And then what I didn't see was a required days of operation. So is that in the contract? They would have required days?
Yeah, but it's 7 days.
It's 7 days. Okay, I think that's important too. I just couldn't see that. So what I haven't seen is a contract, because I was just kind of, it seemed like it wouldn't be an easy sell for me if I was a vendor, but I would have to see the contract. It sounds like it worked before. Do you know what the rent was? It was probably less prior to 2019 when we
So
closed them.
The upset bid price on the last one was $2,500.
2,500. Okay.
The average from all the booths was $3,228.60.
So it's in the range if we give thought towards the inflationary pressure that we've had.
And so the high end was $4,388, and then the low end was $2,650.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like it's a doable range. And then, did you have people waiting in the wings? Was there a wait list, or was it pretty low turnover?
For what do you mean?
For when it was in the old position, it seemed like it was always full from my memory. I don't.
Yeah, I believe it was full. Yeah, when we closed.
Okay. Hold on. Huh. Okay, so I just was kind of looking like, is the market conditions kind of similar? When I was down there, there was very few people in there. I just went and took a look. But Do we expect the demand to be similar? If we looked at that?
Yeah, I don't see any reason for it to change, yeah.
Okay, so I asked what were the old tenant rates. I know we have emphasized less budget tourism, which is what's on the buses, but there's those big bus elements. Maybe they come from the cruise ships. Have we looked at that? Have we reached out to the buses, or do we know if where the interest is? Does the tour buses still go by there?
Yeah, they do. They still do. And they have their own side of the parking lot, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have a question?
Just to follow up to that, is the for Parks and Rec under this particular for this particular project, are we responsible for marketing in collaboration with other entities for the space? We're just the host of the vendors, right? We're not.
Yeah, we're providing a space for vendors, and we just got social.
So working with all the bus tour guides, that's separate.
Separate, yeah.
So I have this question, what is the role of the Small Business Regulatory Review Board? Because it seemed like it sat there for like 3 years, but maybe COVID or something.
It didn't sit with the Small Business Review Board for 3 years.
Okay.
So during the administrative rules process requires, so any administrative rules that gets created or amended that affects business needs to go through, or is required to go through a Small Business Review Board. So the process is that we develop the rules, or we amend the rules, and then once county attorney signs off on it, then we present that to the Small Business Review Board. After the Small Business Review Board, then we get the okay or the recommendation, then we can go to do the public hearing, the regular public hearing as part of the admin rules process. Once the public hearing's done, then we take input from that, we go back to the Small Business Review Board, and then we present again based off of input we have or things we've done or changed or whatever, and then once that is completed, once they sign off on recommendation, then it goes for signature. So that's how they're involved. So they see it twice during the process.
So if we wanted to change these rules,
Yes.
I have a no. After
okay, I was going to say if we
after you're
wanted
done.
to change the rules, like his question had been, if we wanted to change the content of what could be in the building or whatever, it would have to go back through the Small Business Regulatory Review Board.
Yeah, it would go through that whole admin rules process again.
Okay.
Okay, Chair.
Thank you. When was the public hearing on this one? These changes.
March 6th.
I'm sorry?
March 6th. It's on the back of the rule.
March 6th. And, in the last, if I'm not mistaken, in the last go-around or the last rules, wasn't there a requirement for products to be Kauai made
No.
products? Never. It was never there.
Never. And it was only, in the previous, there were 9 booths, and one of them was designated for nonprofit.
Yeah, that's my next question.
And so that one was, it was never filled for the,
Well, it was filled, but it wasn't filled by a nonprofit. I remember.
so
The person was making a
we
lot of
ended
money.
up, so that language was in there for that particular.
Correct.
So we ended up removing that nonprofit.
We took that out?
So there's 8 now, yeah.
Out of the ordinance? That was in the ordinance, right?
It was, well, the number of booths was in the ordinance, and as part of the ordinance amendment, we put it into the rules, yeah. So now the number of booths and the diagram is in the rules and not in the ordinance, yeah.
So the ordinance doesn't specify the nonprofit booth?
No,
So we don't have a nonprofit booth
No.
anymore?
not anymore.
And I remember when we were going through this years and years and years ago, that was the desire of former Mayor Kunimura, that was, he would support this only if they had that one nonprofit booth that would be granted to a nonprofit, and those people could sell water or soda or juice and to help that nonprofit. So that is done now. We're not doing that no more.
Yeah, and then, so we took that language and we just applied it to all 8, yeah. So before that, that language with the encouraged Kaua'i made products was only for that nonprofit booth, so we just removed that and then applied it across the board for this one.
When was that done? When was that removal of the nonprofit?
When we did the ordinance amendment, I'm not sure what the date was on that one, but that was before we did the admin rules. We had to do the ordinance amendment first, and then we create the admin rules after.
Must have been when I wasn't here. I mean, that was one of the key features of this facility was that nonprofit booth. Okay, I'll go do some research.
Just a follow-up question on that, Director Porter. Is there capacity for any of those booths to be filled with a nonprofit in the existing wording of it, as long as they're not selling food or what those limitations are?
Any entity
As long as they are the highest bidder.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
But the idea was the nonprofit didn't have to pay rent.
Right. Oh, okay.
That was the whole purpose of that was the give back to the community and
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Well,
Yeah.
we've got a little bit more. Oh,
no, that's all I have.
Yeah, Councilmember Cowden?
so when they pay the rent, it goes to the finance department. Does it go into a special fund?
209 fund.
A what?
The 209 fund.
A 209 fund, and then when will the invitation for concession bid process open?
So the plan is to have it completed. I have the draft here. It's completed and ready for review by the county attorneys by the end of this month. And then, so it'll be probably the whole process will probably take about, from right now, probably be about 4 months or so before we get the.
And how do we promote it? How do people know? That's kind of what I'm trying to do too, is promote it so people who are passionate and want to do this, or are old vendors, want.
Yeah, so we'll contact all the old vendors because they check in with us every once in a while and see how things are going too. So we have all their contact info, and
Okay.
then so we'll definitely notify them, and then we'll put out the normal any kind of solicitation for bid goes
So
out.
we might put it on the weekly briefing or something to that effect. Somehow that it gets out there, maybe on our social media.
Yeah.
Okay, and are there any special management area limitations? I wasn't able to see the special management permit, only the minor change, the building piece. So is there any particular limitations?
No, from the feedback we got from Kaua'i, everything is legal and good to go for the activities that are happening there.
Okay, and I guess whatever limitations there would be, it would be reflected in the contracts. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, usually.
but not tied to the SMA. Those are
Not tied to the SMA,
Yeah.
okay. Let's see, policy, okay, it's kind of strange. All right, so I just have my last little question here, and are these spouting horn rules and regulations expected to provide a consistent template for future commercial use of parks? Is this something that we would look at, like how it might apply to what we just passed, or is it a whole different process?
I would say totally different because this is a case in its own. Yeah, it's providing a facility for vendors on county property. I don't see that happening anywhere else. It would be just space.
Like with
So
tents or something?
I would say no, that this wouldn't be a good template. There would be aspects of it that might go into the other rules, but no, as far as a template, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have questions?
Anybody else have questions for Director Finance and Parks? Nope. Thank you very much. Oh, yes, so call for public testimony. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to testify on this item, come on up, Lenny.
For the record, Lonnie Sykes. I'm very grateful that our relatively new Parks Director is moving forward with this project. I think the last time I was down there, I was working for the U.S. Census, and the building had been built and was empty. And so this is a terrible waste of possibility, and look forward to moving forward with this project. I had not been aware of the nonprofit booth from the past, and it sounds like a good idea, but it may not be, because whether or not it's a good idea is whether or not the justification for the amount of revenue the nonprofit gets is worth one of the things that's very concerning is the possibility of ending up with 8 vendors selling exactly the same stuff. And that would be a utter disaster, because whichever vendor has the most money in the bank will undersell everybody else, drive them out of business, and then we'll have one vendor. The whole process, this is no different than if the county had decided to open a mall. And so you go get PhDs in mall management, and you need anchors, you need other types of vendors, you need an assortment of services and products. And one of the flaws that I see in this is the lack of variety, of guaranteeing a variety of services and products in this. This isn't fast food where all the fast food restaurants congregate because it generates more business, because all the fast food restaurants have different products. And so, yes, you're attracting customers, but you're attracting them to an area that has a wide variety of products. We don't have any idea what the spread of products is going to be, and we do not want to be setting the vendors up for failure. And so I would suggest that the council look into how do we do a better job of getting a mix of products. As someone who was a farmer and a vendor, my time's up.
Thank you, Lonnie. Any other testimony from the audience? Wonderful. We'll call the meeting back to order for any final Oh, go ahead. Take it. Second 3 minutes, Lonnie.
For the record, Lonnie Psychos, and appreciate Mel's comments about trying to promote locally produced products. I would also point out that every single store that has dedicated itself to made on Kauai products has gone out of business. And so there is a lack of products made in Hawaii. We are not a manufacturing state. And so while I do promote the idea of the county supporting made on Kauai, made in Hawaii products, I question whether or not it would be rational to limit the vendors to only products made in Hawaii, because there aren't that many. And once again, they're all going to end up selling the same products in direct competition with each other and with direct competition with all the other stores that already sell these products. And so I would prefer the county try and set this up so the vendors are successful, not unsuccessful. So I think the rules for products, the business side of this, which the county's not expert in. Counties don't run businesses, and so this inherent problem, if this was a private business operating these 8 stalls, the owner would be concerned about losing their principal. For the county, we got no individual person has a stake in this game. And so it's always inherently difficult for government entities to operate businesses, And that's what we are doing in this, is we are acting as property managers. And so I think we need to put some more work into product mix as well as the management side of this, because we don't hire people to be property managers and business managers. It's not in anybody's contract. So this is, from a business perspective, quite flawed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we will call the meeting back to order for any final discussion from the members on this issue. Councilmember Kaua'i.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Parks and Finance for coming, and I am encouraged that this process is going to be underway after 4 years of non-use of this really, beautiful brand new building. I want to support what the last testifier was saying about tenant mix. That's why I put it in there. Having had a couple decades as a retailer, tenant mix is everything for success. You don't want everybody selling the same thing, and you don't want, you want to have things that draw people together and have reasons to come. You want to have a good enough product base that people just go, oh, I got to go to a birthday party, and they'll go down there. So we need to, that's something that, Pat, that we should look at, is how we do impact that tenant mix. But I thank you guys for coming, and I really hope that anybody who's watching who's interested in having that starts to give it thought and maybe contact Parks or Finance at the county.
Anyone else for final discussion? Chair?
Thank you. I would again ask that we get an attorney's opinion on that. It'll be very hard on a couple of things. Nonprofit booth, I think we got to explore that, because again, that was the intent, and I'm kind of disappointed that we lost that booth, because now if you put the nonprofit in, then you're losing at least $3,500 a month. That booth was separate. That booth was there for a purpose and was to help a community organization. So I mean, I'm kind of disappointed that that's not there. The mix of products, it's going to be very difficult with the restrictions, and I'm curious as to why. And I know this was the same back in the day, but food items, clothing. I mean, clothing to me that's key in the vendor spaces down there. I think clothing would be perfect. I mean, I still prefer Kaua'i made, the same requirements we put out for the county parks. But if you're not going to allow them to sell food, there's some amazing Kaua'i food products, whether it's jerky or honey or I just went to the Haleopio thing, and they had these poi balls, which was incredible, made right in front of you. And I'm not sure why we wouldn't allow that in a place where it's going to be overwhelmed with visitors that want to taste local foods. And that would be ideal. I mean, and I think they could make a goal. So if you're not allowing foods, you're not allowing any drinks either. I mean, my gosh, no water, no nothing. I mean, that's kind of extreme. So I agree. I think with Lonnie that we got to take a look at this with a business mind and say, how are we going to entice these vendors to come in and pay at least $3,500 a month, knowing that they got to recoup that. And you could probably recoup that just in water sales if you had bottled water. Of course, you cannot have certain plastic bottles so canned water, paper box water, whatever. But I think when you're looking at the rules that were put in place decades ago and looking at the new world that we live in, I don't know. I think maybe we got to revisit that and determine what else should we be having over there, because it's going to be very difficult to find. I don't want to see what was there. I don't know if you guys remember going down there. You can buy a container full of Chinese stuff and go. You could do that with this rules and just go out and sell $20 bracelets for what you paid 8 cents for, and you can make a ton of money. But that's not an experience for the visitor. Buying made in China stuff, made in Philippines stuff, made in Thailand, made in Cambodia. We only have 8 booths that should go to people that can actually provide an experience and products and services for these for these majority will be visitors. So I will be asking for the attorney to review that. I don't see how we cannot require Kauai made or Hawaii made products. I just don't. And I think we have enough Hawaii made product people on this island that we would get eight vendors. As long as, like Lonnie said, we're not allowing all 8 to sell Hawaiian bracelets, because then you're setting them up to fail. So you got to kind of require that once you lock in that category, that's your category. And I think somewhere in these rules I read that here it says, once execution of contract, concessionaire shall be given sole rights to conduct a specific commercial activity. What is the specific commercial activity? It's not defined. So I would say you would get sole rights to sell a particular item. So if I'm going to be selling tribal art posters that I make or whatever, that no one else should be able to sell tribal art posters, because then you're going to set these guys up to fail. So I know we've waited a long time for this, but there may be some value in having the discussion to see how can we best optimize Spouting Horn, not just to generate revenue, but also to provide a quality product for our visitors. That's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, Councilmember Cotton, for bringing this up, and thank you, Pat and Chelsea, for working on this. I think you guys obviously put in a lot of work to get this thing moving again. I am curious on that nonprofit booth, and now that it's been brought up, I don't necessarily think it needs to take like one of the booths that are already built. I mean, I could even see a nonprofit space, where they put up a tent or something. But if we gave them like the sole ability to sell water or soda or whatever, I think it would be worth their while to be there, a few days out of the week, different organizations. So I'm like pretty curious on your guys' thoughts on that moving forward. I do think it would be a definite community benefit. I'm thinking like, Kolopa Warner could get it for a week or something, sell water. I'm sure you'll get a pretty good idea of how much money they can make throughout a week selling water and sodas there. If they wanted to sell, I don't know, something else, or advertise that their Pop Warner games are coming up or something like that. I think it's a good opportunity. I also think people that visit there might be more inclined to possibly donate to the nonprofit, depending on the nonprofits there. They might feel like, hey, it's a cool give back for me visiting Kauai or what. So I do think there's a lot of opportunity with that. I never knew about it. I remember, I think the peddlers and concessionaires are possibly Spouting Horn stuff coming up a while ago when we were on council, but I never knew about the nonprofit booth. So, yeah, I'm curious how we move forward with that. Obviously, there's a lot of negative that could happen too. You could get nonprofits that are popping up there just trying to make money. But I do think the benefit will probably outweigh any negative consequences there. It is a good opportunity.
Yes, I want to thank Councilmember Collin for getting this briefing on, and thank you to our presenters for the information and connecting with the community. It's always interesting because this particular project and item is so unique to our county functions. It's one of a kind in the sense that we're actually holding space and managing the space for commercial activity on a public park, which is not unique to anywhere else in the world. The biggest and fun example everyone loves and many have been to or have not been to, you should check out the Seattle Public Market, or even the Milwaukee Public Market, where there's just a unique combination where the government helps and supports local businesses and really emphasize putting forth the actual arts and culture of the place. So it's a unique opportunity for our county to really manage that space, and I echo all the sentiments of our council members at looking at ways for us to make sure that it reflects the community that we want to share with our visitors. And so I hope in this discussion, through this briefing, and the discussions that we've had with our team across the aisle, if they can really look at that as possibilities and ways to look at and adapt to, because it'll better put forth a product that I think our community would like to be part of, and also for our visitors to experience. That's one of the things that we're looking at across the board and everywhere with destination management, is that we want to make sure that we're supporting local and we're supporting our local small businesses, but we're also empowering that local circular economy to benefit from the visitor industry. I just want to add that this is a long time coming also. 4 years, it's one of those things where I totally understand where, hey, let's just open the doors. We got to get this thing going. And it's going to be a process of amending and changing it and fixing along the way. But it's one of those things I think we got to get to the door opening as the initial thing, because has been 4 years. This is something that when I was Parks Chair 2 years ago, slightly harassed our director on a weekly basis. So I'm super excited that we're months away from getting vendors to bid and to get this open for our community.
Thank you. Anyone else for final discussion?
I just want to respond because while I agree with Mr. Bulasan that, we want to move and open these doors, you understand, we're talking about 5-year contracts. We're not talking about, we're talking about a contract that once we award, you're not changing for 5 years. So regardless of what we decide, and that's why I think we got to really make sure that we do it right before we send that IFB out, because once it goes and once we award contracts, they ain't changing anything. We're not. So let's just be cognizant of that. And I agree. I want to see this open. To be honest, I was telling Councilmember Cowden this morning, I actually forgot about salt pond vendors until it was brought up. I was like, wait, really? Wow. And I wasn't here during all of that. So when I saw the pictures of what it looks like, it's gorgeous. It's going to attract the vendors. But just remember, this is a 5-year contract. We're not going to be able to change while those guys are in contract. And then I have requested a meeting, Pat, with you and Finance to have another discussion, hopefully next week, that we can toss these ideas out. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just echo my gratitude for the administration. Thank you guys for being here and for driving this forward. Thank you, Councilmember Cowden, for including it for discussion. I also strongly support emphasizing local products and things that they're made locally wherever we can and with whatever within the county attorney's suggestions. I think it's critical for us to do that. I think the more that we do that, that's awesome. I also understand and want people to get in there and get the doors open. I love the NGO thing, the nonprofit support thing, and I'd also love to see that become something that happens. Maybe if it's done via donations rather than sales to the nonprofit, there can be a way around that commercial or whatever that looks like, and it could be a rotating situation rather than a 5-year one nonprofit is there. And I know that's probably a little bit more to consider, but I also strongly support that. And the local food conversation. I mean, we just came back from Philadelphia where we saw this incredible market that is actually one of the most, I think, attractive tourism destinations in Philadelphia. So it just goes to show what these kind of sites can be for the community. So again, thank you very much. I think the motion on the table is to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no further business and hearing no objections, the Parks and Rec Transportation Committee is now adjourned. Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Housing and Intergovernmental Relations Committee. Let the record reflect all members are present. We only have one item on our agenda, which is the minutes of our July 9th committee meeting. Can I get a motion to approve in a second?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there anyone wishing to testify? Nope. Any members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. There being no other business and hearing no objection, our meeting is adjourned.
Okay, we'll take a recess here. We'll take a 10-minute. We'll do our caption break. Because we got some Zoom stuff we set up and make sure we're all good before we run in. So let's take a 10-minute caption break.
Oh, you got it.
Yes. I sure did. You saw me go on my break.
Thank you for your patience. Yeah, the committee of the whole will now come to order. Let the record reflect that all members are present. Can we have the one and only item, please?
COW 2025-03, communication from Council Chair Raposo requesting the presence of the county engineer.
Move to receive.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Thank you for that. I'm sure you all received Surfrider's testimony. It's a pretty thick and intensive document. And when I got this last week, I read through it and was a little concerned, and understanding that we are currently going through a permit for our NPDES permit for Wailua wastewater plant, the Lidgate plant. I wanted to have this discussion, and the reason I wanted to have this discussion soon is because one of the requests is to extend the comment period. And I'm not sure if we're still able to do that, but I wanted the community to have an opportunity to share their concerns, which we can then relay to the state if need be. And this was the most expedient way I knew how. So with that, the flow will be, we'll have the county come up first, wastewater. I am hopeful that they got a chance to read through the testimony of Surfrider. And then Surfrider is here as well. I believe we have someone here on Zoom that will be able to provide a presentation as well. We have been talking about wastewater for many years. And if you read the Surfrider Foundation testimony, there's some concerns, and I did highlight some of them. I'll suspend the rules to have the county discuss this, but there are some issues that I think I would like to have the discussion and figure out if in fact we are on track to get a permit renewal, or are we going to be in trouble? And that is why we're here today. So with that, I guess it'll be you, Donald, leading. Again, the rules are suspended, so if you could just identify yourself and then.
Good morning. Good morning, Honorable Council Chair Raposo and council members. My name is Donald Fujimoto. I'm the Chief of the Wastewater Management Division, and we are here today to provide an update on the Wailua outfall. We prepared a PowerPoint. If we can get that up, appreciate it. Okay, anyway, this picture is just...
You got to point it at the computer.
Okay, the picture shows our diver who does quarterly inspection on the outfall. And what you see is he's looking at the diffuser, which is a 4-inch pipe that comes off of a 15-inch RCP pipe, which is part of the outfall. Okay, our update will include the following items: goals and objectives, ocean outfall review, the Wailua outfall update, Wailua outfall NPDES permit renewal process, public comment evaluation, next steps, and summary. So, Water Management Division mission statement is to protect the public's health, safety, and the environment by developing and operating the county's wastewater infrastructure. So we're not, we're on the same page. We want to do the best for the environment, and so we're not in opposition to the comments provided by Surfrider Foundation. I think this is more of an issue of interpretation of the law and the permit requirements. Anyway, the goals and objectives is to maintain our Wailua permitted effluent disposal discharge to the ocean outfall, to be in compliance of new regulations for the outfall discharge. Okay, this map shows the location of the Wailoa outfall gravity line indicated by the yellow line. It is located about 1,200 feet southeast of Lidgate Pond. So anyway, you can see that it starts from the plant, and then it goes southeast and then goes out into the ocean. The Wailoa outfall was built in 1965 and is about 60 years old. The distribution line to the outfall is a 15-inch reinforced concrete pipe extending about 570 feet offshore from the mean sea level line. 6 4-inch diffusers spaced 12 feet apart is located at the tip of the outfall. This is the construction plan for the Wailoa outfall. It shows the 15-inch extends out 670 feet from a sewer manhole located about 100 feet inland. The next slide will show an enlargement of the diffuser section of the outfall. Okay, this is an enlarged profile of the outfall diffusers. There are 6 4-inch diffusers spaced 12 feet apart on where the seafloor is sloping downward. The depth of the diffuser starts at about 20 feet deep and ends about 30 feet deep. Only 3 diffusers are open, alternating from the second diffuser. Okay, this slide shows the various locations from the shoreline and the status of its open or closed position. So again, diffuser 26 is the closest to shore, and labeled sequentially going to diffuser 31, which is about 560 feet from shore. Actually, it's 575 feet. Again, the second one is open, the third is closed, fourth is open, fifth is closed, and the last one, the deepest one, is open. This slide shows the detail of the 4-inch diffuser off of the 15-inch RCP pipe. Okay, this is a picture that was taken in March of 2025. I guess what you can see from here is that the currents are pulling the sand away from the pipe. And if you look real good, you can see where the zone of mixing is freshwater and saltwater to the right of the opening. Okay, as mentioned, this slide highlights the findings of the outfall inspections. Only 3 diffusers out of 6 are open. The other 3 are sealed shut with blind flanges. Prevailing currents pull offshore at the diffuser locations, and seasonal currents shift the sand over or away from the diffusers. So the Wailoa outfall is the only means for non-spec effluent discharge. It is permitted for a design capacity of 1.5 million gallons per day. Wailoa wastewater treatment plant serves approximately 4,500 people in the Wailoa Resort Corridor, Kaua'i Town Highway Corridor, as well as Mailona Hospital and Kaua'i High School. Okay, in Hawaii, ocean outfalls are regulated by Hawaii Administrative Rules 11-54 and by the NPDES permit process. NPDES, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, is a crucial regulatory tool that controls water pollution by regulating discharges of pollution into U.S. water. Penalties for violations include up to $60,000 per violation per day and up to 2 years in prison. So this is a very serious statute that we got to comply with. This slide will lead us into the Wailua Outfall NPDES permitting process. So Wailua Outfall is permitted to operate under NPDES permit number HI 0020257. The NPDES permit is issued for 5-year periods. So the expiration of the current permit expired on October 24 of 24. The law requires that we submit the application 360 days prior to the expiration date. So it was submitted on October 31st, 2023. And the state issued a temporary extension until October 31st of this year, with the understanding that they knew they would take time to review and work on the permit. So the NPDES permit renewal is reviewed and new conditions are added or eliminated based on new regulations. On May 23rd, 2025, we received the draft NPDES permit from Department of Health Clean Water Branch. So that draft permit is the final version of DOH recommendation to renew the NPDES permit. On June 26, 2025, Department of Health approved that we post this public notice. It was published in the Garden Island, and it solicited comments for a 30-day period. So the 30-day period was from June 26, 2025 to July 26, 2025. The final comment period allows for a public hearing, at least 30 days of public notice, at least 30 days of the public notice if there is sufficient interest as determined by the director. So the process allows for a public hearing if there's sufficient interest. And according to their stage SharePoint, there were 114 comments that were received. 2 letters came from the Surfrider Foundation. 1 letter was from their consultant, Barry W. Salkin. The council request was based on concern raised by Surfrider Foundation, so our initial focus was on their letters. The comments range from highly technical to subjective personal responses. So of the 114, Surfrider Foundation one is more technical in nature. So one of the letters, the issues of one of the letters was focused again on some technical issues like the Kaua'i bacteria and turbidity levels, nutrient levels, monitoring frequencies. The second letter was concerned, the issues we saw was sewage overflow in a resort area beach. The plant is in a tsunami zone. The length and condition of the outfall. The interruption of littoral flow by the Department of Transportation proposed breakwater, which we're not aware of, and outfall alternatives and wetlands. So some of the options for sewer discharge are underground injection control wells based on functional equivalence movement. Future movement on this option is towards being regulated by NPDES permits also. Ocean outfalls, which is regulated by the EPA, NPDES, through the state Department of Health Clean Water. And reuse considered to be the highest and best use. The normal one is irrigation, but another reuse that people are now looking more into is gray water use, which is toilets and non-potable use. It should be noted that reuse will require large capital investments as well as require additional operational maintenance costs that have not been currently budgeted. So in the case of Wailoa, we already are reusing R2 water at the golf course, and that really helps us a lot. But anyway, this is going to impact all of our facilities. Okay, we believe that the Wailoa NPDES permit process is strictly regulated by the State Department of Health, which meets minimum EPA requirements. Currently, some of the monitoring and reporting requirements include monthly and annual discharge monitoring reports, and DMR require reporting on enterococci, turbidity, nutrient, and toxicity levels. Quarterly reports include zonal mixing sampling, outfall inspection, and wet testing, which is a test on toxicity. I have the definition of wet is whole effluent toxicity. Testing is a critical component of environmental management and industrial risk mitigation as it analyzes the aquatic toxicity of wastewater effluent. Wet testing is often required for National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permitting, as in this case. Okay, this slide shows the zonal mixing map. The red dot is the location of the Wailoa outfall diffuser. The yellow dots show the location of 6 sampling points. S1 is the dot immediately to the left of the red dot. S2 is located to the north, about 550 feet north. Same distance from the shoreline. S3 is located about 550 feet south. Same distance from the shoreline. S4 is located about 1,000 feet seaward from S1. And S5 is located about 1,000 feet seaward of S3. And then S6 is the dot way on the bottom of the page, and that's the control. Again, the permit does allow for a zonal mixing. Okay, this is a vertical chart for the 6 locations measuring the full depth from the surface to the bottom for temperature, salinity, dissolved oxygen, and pH. This graph is from sampling done in March 2025, but it's pretty typical of the quarterly reports that have been done. So the significance of this graph is that the levels of all shown items is almost identical for all sample locations and depth. So the vertical line means that the results are all similar, and the line shows the depth of the sampling. So it starts from the surface, mid-depth, and then the final, the bottom. And then the color reflects the different sampling points. So the light blue is control, and then the red is a sampling spot closest to the diffuser. So as you can see, it's almost overlapping. That means the sampling is identical. So it's not impacted by the proximity of the diffusers. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
The first graph, the second graph, they're kind of, the third graph, the dissolved oxygen. I noticed the red line is way to the left versus the one of those,
Okay.
the green line at the
Yeah.
one level. The
Yes.
green line is way to the right, so I don't see it as being.
Yeah, and that's the good thing. Okay, so if you look at the first chart on the left, temperature, for example, the light blue goes all the way to the bottom of the page, and the reason is because sample location 6, which is the blue, is in the deepest area.
You said that's a control, right? That's the control.
Yeah, so that's the area on the bottom of that
Okay.
map.
And what is the, so it's 11 meters? Is
Yeah,
where they-
it's 11 meters or about 66 feet deep, 70 feet deep. Then if you look at S1, which is the closest to the diffuser, and okay, so that's only 30 feet deep, so it's shorter. The red line, if you look at it real good, you can see that the red line ends at 5 meters, which
Well,
is about.
I see the red line ending at, I don't know, it's hard to tell. What is ending at 9.5?
9.5 would be.
That looks red to me.
9.5 would be, 5, I think.
5 is pink, right?
Yeah, 5 is a pink, right? So there, if you look good, there is a schedule there for the different colors.
Yeah, man. That line at 9.5
Yeah.
looks red to me, which is station 2. I can't even see a pink, but regardless of the color, what does that tell you? or
Okay,
tell me?
so it means that the temperature is about little over 26 degrees centigrade. That means the temperature is the same for all locations. That the outfall doesn't influence temperature. The next graph over is salinity. And so as you can see, it doesn't really impact the salinity also. And then the third is dissolved oxygen. And it doesn't impact oxygen that much.
So tell us, what does dissolved oxygen represent? Does that mean that there's more bioactivity going on? What are we measuring when we see dissolved oxygen?
My understanding is dissolved oxygen is an indicator of healthy conditions. So if there's no oxygen, then you get on deprived situation, and you can cause some eutrophication, I guess they call
Like
it.
if we had a bunch of seaweed on top or something?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Dissolved
Again,
oxygen is also often related to the mixing of the water. So in areas where water is real stagnant, you'll see a decrease in oxygen, and then areas where you see like coastal mixing, you'll see an increase in oxygen.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And then the last is the pH. So it does vary, but it's really close. The ranges are very close.
Okay.
And it's unfortunately that we don't have a turbidity graph, because the turbidity actually does, you can see one difference, but it's so slight. And I'll go to the next slides. Okay. So this is actual data. And if you look at, there's a column, turbidity, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth column to the left of the end. And you can see that sample 1 is a little higher than the rest. But you know that 0.6 NTU is negligible, is so slight. Just to give you an indication, R1, which is the highest level of reuse, minimum NTU is 2. So, you know, again, this is sampling at the locations in the zone of mixing.
So what is the allowable NTU? What is the, I mean, 0.6.
In this, I'm not sure what it is. We're permitted, right now, I'm not sure if and that's where Surfrider actually might point it out, what it should be.
Well, they did.
R2, and maybe they did. We did not have enough time to scrutinize your letter. I mean, it was very technical. There are a lot of information, and today's meeting is more to provide information on what we're doing and what we've been doing to date.
I have a simple question.
Go ahead.
Is R3 ever going out there even on a high rain event? Is it always R2 or better, or is it ever
No,
R3?
so my understanding is that that we are permitted for non-spec. So whatever we cannot send to the golf course, which is R2, is permitted to be discharged at the outfall.
So non-spec means non-specification, so that means it's got more sewage, raw sewage in it. Is it any of it raw? That's good.
Yes, you could put it that way.
Okay, why don't you go through and then we'll.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, next steps. So the draft NPDS permit was completed in May 2025. Again, Department of Health looked at it and they thought it was ready for issuance, and that's why they offered this to the public for comment. And I guess Surfrider, after their review, felt that it's not ready and it should be revised further. Based on the number of comments, a public hearing will probably be scheduled. I mean,
Well,
I'm not
I can tell you, I'll be
talking for
requesting
DOH.
one. I'll be requesting one.
I'm not talking for DOH. I'm just saying that 114 seems like a lot of comments to me. We will need to request to extend the current temporary NPDS extension to finalize the permit. So right now, we only allowed permit till October 31, 2025. So we definitely, I think we'll need an extension because it appears that DOH will have to probably look at all of the technical information provided by Surfrider. We'll continue on our projects to upgrade and repair the Wailoa wastewater treatment plant. We will continue to pursue the relocation of the Wailoa wastewater treatment plant outside of the tsunami zone. And then we'll consider more reuse and effluent discharge options. Okay, this is an overview of the Wailoa wastewater treatment plant, which is over 60 years old and in need of improvements to ensure reliability and prevent future failure in meeting stringent treatment requirements and to meet the NPDES minimal outfall levels. So Wailoa wastewater treatment plant has two major projects that we are currently working on that will tremendously improve its reliability. Wailoa wastewater treatment plant process improvement phase 1 is currently budgeted at about $16.5 million. We hope to bid this project by early next month and start construction before the end of 2025. This project includes electrical upgrades, aeration improvements, clarifier repairs, addition of a new disc filter, chlorination system improvements, and effluent pump replacements. So Wailoa process improvement phase 2 is currently estimated to cost about $50 million and funded through SRF. We hope to complete design by the end of 26 and start construction in 2027. So when I did the PowerPoint, I was really optimistic. It's actually 1 year back, I think. This project will focus on headworks improvement, primary disc filtration, solids reduction in effluent treatment, rotary drum thickeners to facilitate hauling sludge to Lihui for processing. This will eliminate the need to process or to process the sludge on-site and reduce replacement and solids handling costs. And the equipment is going to be designed to be modular for possible reuse and backup at other treatment facilities. Hopefully when the new facility is up and running, we can reuse some of the parts. Okay, the rough projected timeline to construct a new regional facility for Wailoa Kaua'i is about 10 years. The current estimated cost is about $140 million for both the new treatment facility and new sewer collection distribution system. We're currently finalizing the siting alternative study and plan on going out to the public at the end of this year. We hope to be able to finalize the site location with the assistance of public concurrence by the end of next year. We will then need to conduct the environmental permitting and clearance, which may take up about 3 years, ending in 2029. Upon passing the environmental permitting, we'll need to procure property, which may take longer if the landowner is not willing. This period may take us up to 2031. Design will take another 2 years and construction about 3 years after that, bringing us to 2035. Okay, summary. In summary, we will work with DOH on finalizing the Wailoa Outfall NPDES permit renewal, which will include requesting an extension to our current October 31, 25 deadline. Depending on the new additional compliance requirements, Wastewater Management Division may need additional funding to increase staffing, consultants, and construction costs for increased testing, reporting, and treatment process improvements. I believe that the biggest challenge for the wastewater industry is effluent disposal for existing and new facilities. This will have a direct impact to when and at what level of treatment will be required to meet stringent effluent disposal requirements. This is evident with the latest legislation on cesspool conversion requirements, where the direction is to centralize wastewater treatment. 88,000 cesspool discharge 53 million gallons of untreated sewage into our groundwater each day. Addressing these effluent discharge issues make question whether it is better to decentralize versus centralizing and dealing with concentrated wastewater for the future.
Excuse me, do you have a slide for that?
No, I don't.
Can you create one?
Hang on.
To the public?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I could do a summary. Okay. Okay, thank you for the opportunity to address this issue. We have also included a glossary at the end of this presentation for reference. Please feel free to direct any questions to myself or Don Kakuda at the email listed or phone number. And at this time, we'll entertain any questions or comments.
We're going to take the Surfrider testimony for who have their presentation, because I want to make sure we're not asking the same questions to two different groups of people. Hopefully Surfrider can answer some of the questions that we have as it relates to the technical part of this. So is Surfrider on the Zoom?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Excuse me. Okay, thank you. If you could just state your name and your position, and then we can proceed with your
Yes, hello. My name is Jill Witkowski-Heaps. I am the Senior Legal Director at Surfrider Foundation. And I have a PowerPoint slide to share. Is there a way to stop sharing the current PowerPoint so I can share mine? Perfect.
Do you have the start sharing button on your screen? There you go.
Yes. Can you see that?
Yes. Okay, you're on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to take a moment to first introduce myself, and then I'd like to spend my time walking through our issues with the permit. I know the comments are really legal and technical, and so I'd like to state it in plain English what our concerns are and what we're hoping that you could do. And I'm happy to answer questions at the end. My name is Jill Witkowski-Heaps. I became the Senior Legal Director of Surfrider Foundation in October of last year, but I have been a public interest environmental lawyer for 20 years. And this also is a picture of Barry Sulkin, who's our water quality expert, who submitted expert testimony about the permit and on whom I relied when I wrote my technical comments. And I've been working with Barry on Clean Water Act permits since 2006. A little bit about my experience with Clean Water Act permits and sewage treatment plants. I've worked across the country on Clean Water Act permits for my entire career, and I've done a ton of work with communities on sewage treatment plants. I'm going to give you two quick examples of types of issues I've dealt with. In Independence, Louisiana, we got a call from some local community members about a stench coming from their sewage treatment plant, and another mom whose kids had gone into the local river and come out with rashes. And it turned out that a local shrimp plant had started sending its wastewater to the sewage treatment plant, and it overwhelmed the plant. It killed all the bacteria, and they were dumping raw sewage into the Tangipahoa River. And we worked with the community, that community group, and the town and the sewage treatment plant and the shrimp plant, and came up with a solution of pre-treatment and reseeding the bacteria into the sewage plant, and we're able to come up with a solution for the community. In San Diego, there's a picture here of the San Diego main sewage treatment plant, which was built in the 60s as well, on the side of a cliff in Point Loma. And when the Clean Water Act came out in the mid-70s and had additional requirements for treatment at sewage treatment plants, there wasn't any room for this plant to expand because they were right next to a military installation. So San Diego was shooting its sewage partially treated out into the ocean as well. Their outfall was 1.5 miles out and 400 feet deep. We had worked continuously with EPA and California on permits there, and their long-term solution was that they had to do something else other than keep putting partially treated sewage into the ocean. So community got together with businesses and taxpayers with a technology solution, and San Diego has rolled out Pure Water SD, which is a hyper-treating their sewage to supplement their drinking water supply. So they're using an indirect potable reuse system. It does cost a lot of money, and it has taken a lot of time to put together, but that was a solution that I worked on with San Diego, with the regulators, with the community. I also have extensive experience with water infrastructure financing for clean water and wastewater, and in 2019 was invited to testify before Congress about ways that EPA could help with revolving funds to support upgrades to sewage treatment plants, and also how communities can adopt equitable water rates to make sure that needed improvements at sewage treatment plants would be spread out fairly among the community. But the common solution here with all the sewage treatment plants that I've worked on is that there are technology solutions to these pollution problems. And one of the biggest hurdles is often finding the financing to really support those technology solutions. So I'm really excited that we're having this conversation now because I think there are affordable solutions that can be put into play for the problems that we're facing at Wailua. And on technology, just a little reminder, in 1974 when Congress modified the Clean Water Act, they set a national goal to stop putting pollution into our waterways by 1985. So that's just over 2 permit cycles. And the reason why they thought that that was achievable is because Clean Water Act is supposed to be a technology forcing statute, that each time a facility has its permit renewed, that they would look at what are the technologies available to reduce or eliminate pollution into the waterway. So I want to keep that in mind when we talk about our issues with the permit. And really the bacteria is the primary one, but there are a number of other issues. So enterococci, for those of you who aren't scientists or are not familiar with that term, it's a fecal indicator bacteria. So the enterococci themselves are not necessarily something that is worrisome, but it's a proxy for the presence of these other things that will make you sick, that will give you gastrointestinal distress, will cause rashes, and otherwise get you sick. And the state has set up standards for enterococci in primary contact recreation water, so that's places where we swim and surf and paddle and wade and dive. And I have the standard here, which is the average should be 35 and the maximum is 130. And this permit allows the average to be 745 and the maximum to be 7,150. The justification for that, it has to do with some math around mixing zones or a zone of initial dilution. But at the end of the day, what this permit does is it allows extraordinarily high levels of enterococci bacteria, which indicate levels of pathogens that will get people sick if they are swimming, surfing, wading, diving in this water. And it's just unacceptable. And there is not just a bacteria problem of like, hey, we're putting out a lot of bacteria into the ocean and it gets mixed up and diluted and goes away. We're seeing even the data at the park on the beach are high. They're violating the maximum that the standard should be. And that's just at the beach. That's not even counting what's in the water. We've also seen twice so far this year enterococci levels at the facility being dumped out over 8,000, which indicates raw sewage. sewage that has not been disinfected. There's a simple way to get these numbers down. It's to disinfect. You can do that through chlorination or UV. This facility looks like it uses chlorination. There's something going on with the chlorination system here that we'd love to get to the bottom of. And so here, this is an admission. It wasn't in any of the permit materials, but we did find it in the environmental review document from 2023 that sometimes the sewage treatment plant is not able to treat effluent to disinfect it and puts the raw sewage into the ocean. So R2, again, is wastewater that's been disinfected. So if it's not R2, that means it's not been disinfected. So our question is that we haven't heard an answer to yet is, why is the treatment plant not disinfecting the sewage? And this isn't just a numbers issue of like in a permit. People are affected here. I'm not going to read all of these, but here are some of the 114 comments that were submitted by residents, and it shows that we have really at-risk folks. We have children, young children, and the elderly, and folks with autoimmune illnesses that want to come here and swim and surf and dive. And we're seeing kids getting rashes and having to skip practices and people being sick. And this is a real public health risk. And even although the state is currently behind these numbers of high levels of Enterococcus, for various reasons set out in our comment letter, it's illegal and it doesn't protect the public health. Moving on to the nutrient pollution issues, I'll just briefly gloss over these, but basically there's been a problem with nutrient pollution for a long time that was miraculously, quote, fixed by math. So in 2013, there was a 10-year compliance schedule to lower the pollution to meet water quality standards. There was a report done that showed there's different ways to fix and reduce the nutrient pollution. But in 2016 and 2017, there was a mixing zone study put together by an engineering firm that said, the ocean is so big that we don't need nutrient controls and nutrients will be fine. I'd just like to point out the zone of mixing data that Mr. Fujimoto had shared was dated June 30th, 2025, which is a Monday. My understanding is the facility is discharging Tuesday through Thursday during this time of year. So if that's true, the sampling that they're taking showing that there's not a problem is taking at a time when the facility is not discharging. So in 2019, the state removed nutrient limits from the permit, and in 2024, now we're seeing high levels of nutrients in the ocean at Lidgate Park. So our math, these like mixing zone studies that have been done that show that there's not a problem, hasn't solved the problem. And our letter points out various problems with the mixing zone study, including what I just learned today. It says that the pipeline is 670 feet out into the ocean, but we saw today that the discharges are actually 512, 536, and 560 feet out. Also, the discharge was at a very low level of discharge, like 0.2 million gallons a day and 0.4 million gallons a day, even though we're seeing up to 1 million gallons a day being discharged. So they're looking at very low levels of discharge and saying that there's not a problem. On the turbidity side, I have, again, the standard, the maximum, and what the permit is. The ocean, just like nutrients, the ocean at Lidgate Park is listed as impaired. There's too much turbidity there. And allowing this facility to put out so much turbidity when we've got the standards are much, much lower and we know there's already a problem is not legal. And again, a general issue that monitoring must ensure compliance, as was shown with the data that was shared earlier. If you're only discharging Tuesday through Thursday, but you're monitoring on a Monday, you're not getting an example of really what the harm this facility is doing to the ocean and to those people who are using and recreating in the ocean there. And so our request is that the monitoring needs to be more than 4 times a year, and it has to be done at a time when the discharge is happening. And we need to be doing a better job to make sure that the monitoring is ensuring compliance with our water quality standards. And finally, we have asked for a permit hearing, as have many of the commenters. getting a hearing on the permit will extend the comment period by till the end of the hearing. So, and the hearing must be noticed for 30 days. This would be extremely helpful to us at Surfrider because we had requested several documents to review, including water quality monitoring data to review as we were reviewing the draft permit. And we did receive that from the state, but we received it the day before the permit comments were due. So I did not have enough time to review those documents, and I would like time to review those documents and to participate in a public hearing and to have the public be heard. You know, a lot of the things that the permit says is that, you know, there's no concern with, we don't know if people are getting sick, and this is in the public interest, but I think the public is standing up to say that especially these high levels of bacteria and this raw sewage going into the ocean is not in the public interest, and the community deserves better, and I think there is a technical fix here. We just need to dig in together to figure out what that is. And so Surfrider looks forward to working collaboratively with you, with the facility, with the regulators to protect public health and our water resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions clarifying. In your Antero Kaua'i slide, which is slide number 10, you have the average and maximum, I guess, permitted or allowable levels, and then the permit request is significantly higher. And in fact, the discharge data sampling, I guess, was even higher than what the permit is being requested. My question is for the Antero Kaua'i and the turbidity. When you mentioned the standard average or standard maximum, is that a state standard? Is that a national standard? Where does that number come from?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I've included is the state standard. EPA has, in 2012, adopted recommended recreational water quality criteria for Antero Kaua'i, and in 2014, Hawaii adopted those. So this mirrors EPA standards, but these are specifically Hawaii-specific recreational standards for bacteria.
Okay, so if the state standard average is 0.5, and I'm looking at the turbidity chart, and the maximum is 1.25, how in the heck would they issue a permit for 410?
Yeah, that's a great question. The math that they're doing is they're saying that we're putting it out into the ocean with diffusers, and the ocean is mixing it up. And at some point around the diffusers, we're not going to meet the standard, but outside the zone of mixing, we'll eventually get to be an acceptable turbidity level that meets the state standards.
Who is saying that? The state?
The state. And actually the engineers hired by the county to support the sewage treatment plant is saying that these high levels of turbidity will ultimately meet the state standards.
Okay. I know I heard Donald, and I'll bring up Donald a little bit, but I heard Donald say earlier that they believe it's an interpretation of the law or interpretation issue. But when you're looking at the Antero Kaua'i and it's 35 to 130, and the state's going to go ahead and permit 7,150, and we're even exceeding that, that just simply makes no sense for me. But I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist, I'm a layperson. But when you talk about the comments, and I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty embarrassed to say, but the comments that you have on your slide 15 with the people are at risk with some of those comments are comments that I have heard that I attributed to possibly storm runoff from the river, and honestly did not think about the plant because I wasn't aware of how, until today, I really haven't understood how this sewage is being put out in the ocean. So I appreciate the discussion today. And just one last question, and this is kind of off the subject, but because you've been around, you know, we've been talking to people that have suggested that we move towards wastewater plants, membrane plants. Have you have any information or expertise with those types of that technology that are pretty much secured internal technologies?
Yeah, San Diego, thank you for asking that. I did work closely with the city of San Diego, which is usually they call that tertiary amazing because they use like reverse osmosis and they shoot the effluent, the treated effluent through these membranes. And what it does is it not only takes away your pathogens, it takes away the nutrients, but it also deals with some of these other emerging contaminants like forever chemicals and pharmaceuticals that we're seeing in our wastewater that right now, some of these don't even have limits yet set by EPA or set by the state, but that provide a real concern for folks. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. And once you have highly treated sewage, it's much easier to reuse it in beneficial ways, like for irrigation or potentially even down the road for augmenting drinking water supplies.
Jill, I got to ask you this to verify that this is the first time we've spoken, right? I've never met you before.
Yes, this is my first time before you.
Yeah, okay. I just want to, because the membrane technology is something that we have, in fact, Councilmember Kaua'i and I have presented to the administration months and months ago, and as a viable option to start looking at, and I don't want them to think that I bring you in as a paid expert to validate what I was trying to say, so I needed to make that disclaimer. Thank you. Mr.
That is where the technology should be going, so I'm glad you're looking at that. And thank you so much for having me today.
Wait, you're not done yet. We got some questions.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hello, Joe. Councilmember Bolsai, thank you for being here. Quick question, just following up on the data that you provided. How is the testing done? Is it done by a third party or for the levels that are reported?
My understanding is so there's various types of testing done. There's testing that happens at the plant that I would assume plant staff are taking. Then there's zone of mixing, like the in the ocean testing that is done by a consultant. So the graphs that you saw with Mr. Fujimoto's presentation, I believe, are done by an outside consultant. And then the data at Lidgate Park, so there's 3 shoreline monitoring stations that should be done 5 times a month, and I am not sure who does that.
Thank you.
Mrs. Cowden?
Okay,
Thank you. This is Felicia. Can you help me understand, or do you remember numbers from San Diego, if there's a comparative, when we're looking at over 8,000 as the enterococci number? Was San Diego's problem that high?
I do not believe it was. These are the highest numbers that I recall having seen.
Okay, and then another question I have, which you may or may not be able to answer. I have tried to ask it internally. Are you contemplating tidal currents? Because whether that water goes south to north, that would be bringing it, from the mixing zone all along the park, even into, the little swim ponds. It sort of surprises me we don't really have a good tidal and current chart. Have you seen anything to influence that analysis?
That's a great point, and one that we made in our comments, in that our criticisms of the zone of mixing analysis was that it didn't look at these critical conditions. When the currents are, north, when the trade winds are blowing heavily onshore, when you have the highest level of discharge, you should be looking at the critical conditions and making sure that pollution levels are acceptable in the worst case scenario. We've seen other states, I've reviewed other zone of mixing analysis for other states, and you are seeing other states do that, and we are seeing EPA recommend that you're looking at worst case scenario when you're doing that sort of analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Connoisseur?
Quick follow-up still on that page 5, the enterococci, the greater than 8,057, that came from the county's testing, or is that someone else's testing?
That's what the county reported on its discharge monitoring report.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
I have one more. I tried to look up the state testing, and it seems like the state hasn't been testing for a number of years. were you able, because I didn't see the discharge report directly, is there any state testing numbers on there?
I did not review any state testing numbers, and one of our frustrations is that the information that we were able to review was incomplete because not all the information that was required to be tested by the permit was available on EPA's ecosystem, which is where these discharge monitoring reports are publicly available. So that was part of the data that we had requested from the state as we were reviewing these permits.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, Donald and the Public Works, if you can come back up. I'm not sure how we do this with, can we keep her on Zoom and? But she can see. Okay.
Council Chair, can I respond to?
Absolutely.
First of all, I did not get her name.
Jill.
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 With
So first of all, I thank you very much, Jill, for your presentation, and I agree absolutely with her. And you know, it's only money, you know, and that's where we have a fiscal responsibility to our constituents and our clients to be fair with them and to do the least that we need to do to meet compliance and still, because there is a cost to this. There is a cost to trying to meet compliance at a higher level. And
How about if we make compliance at the standard level?
okay, so
How
we
about if
have
we
been
made
in
it-
compliance up till now, and only now are they asking for a more stringent requirement. And I'd like to respond to that exceedance. So we did exceed, we did have an exceedance. And well, first of all, it's a contradiction between the outfall and the reuse. So R2 requires chlorination and chlorine residual. The outfall is the opposite. We really got to be careful with the chlorine residual because of the wet testing. The wet testing is a process where they use sea urchins, and the result is based on the reproduction of the sea urchins. And the chlorine has a real big influence on, you know, that rates. And so we try to minimize chlorine when it goes to the outfall. And this is to prevent killing the reefs and other things like that biologically. So again, there is a technology to disinfect without chlorine residual, and that's UV. UV is very expensive. You know, it's high energy, and it is very expensive to build one. And not to mention that now we're in the tsunami zone, so we're going to have to meet all kinds of building requirements.
Well, you know, we'll get to that later because I want to touch on this on your timeline for the new site. But I kind of want to stick to this.
Okay, so
are you in agreement with the surf riders' numbers? And let's just start with Kaua'i,
Right,
where
okay,
the
so-
35 and 130 is what the state standard is, and we're seeking a permit that would allow us to do 745 up to 7,150. Are you in agreement with that slide?
So first of all, I'm not. It's not apples and oranges. It's not, you know. It's,
Okay, help me understand because I don't.
Okay, so one number is based on your. My understanding, one number is based on your maximum level in the ocean. The other number assumption is that's the level effluent level that will get to the minimum level or maximum level through dilution. So it's after the dilution zone that you'll meet that level. And that's why the state has a higher level of the effluent. It's not of the tested zone of mixing. It's not where you test arbitrarily and see if you have exceeded that level. So I don't think there's any test that shows it exceeded that levels.
Clarifying question.
Yeah, real quick. All I know is what's on this chart, and that's why I'm asking you if you agree or disagree with the chart.
Yes.
Regardless of what outfall or.
So
this is telling me that the state standard for Kaua'i whatever it is, whether it's outfall or testing, is 35 to 130, but the permit is 745 to 7,150. Is that not accurate?
That's the state standards now. They're saying that the state shouldn't have that level, that high level. But this is the state permitted level. This is what the state permits.
What is the state what is
the 75 and the 7,000?
So what is the again? Maybe I should get Jill back on. But what is the when you say standard, right? Up here it says standard.
Yeah.
25, and then permit is
right. That's what it is. Okay, so the standard is what the state standard is.
Okay.
The bottom line, the permit one, is assuming that's the raw data before it's mixed, before the zonal mixing.
Okay, can I ask for a little point of clarity?
I know Addison had a clarifying. Go ahead.
No, and I think this question should be posed at Department of Health. I'm the last guy that you should be asking to interpret their laws.
But I mean, I think you should have an understanding of what it means.
This is my understanding.
Okay.
And that's why it's not apple and oranges.
Right, so just to clarify what you're saying, is the standard and the permit are two different measurements.
Yes, exactly.
That are within the guidelines of the...
Right, and she did list the ones that are applicable at this point. They're asking that it be changed. She's asking that they lower the 700 to the 35 and then the 7,000 to 130. That's what she's saying.
Well, that's not what I heard her say. What I heard her, I specifically asked her, was that a national standard or a state standard? She told me, can we get Jill on?
Can I please?
Yeah, I'm here.
It doesn't really make sense. So I want to be really clear. Are you trying to say that the 7,150 is not coming out of the mixing area sample sites as per your sample diagram? Are you saying it's coming out of the direct effluent prior to release from the pipe? So you're saying that the 7,150 is a reading that came out of the effluent prior to being released?
That's what the state is saying is a maximum that can come out of our...
Whereas the 130 is the maximum that's allowed in the sampling sites on the S1 to 5.
Yeah, if you go in the swimming pool.
So we're talking about two different things.
Well, that's why we had everybody here. Jill, if you can clarify, because I asked you if that 35 and 130 we're talking about in Kaua'i was the state's standard.
Yeah, we'll get on the same page with terminology. The water quality standard of what is acceptable in primary contact recreation water, which is what the ocean is 35 and 130. The permit is the permit limit, the proposed permit limit there is the current permit limit, and the proposed permit limit are the same. So this is what the facility has been doing for the past several years. And it is higher than the standard that's in the water because the facility has asked for a higher limit to allow it to discharge high levels of bacteria. So because they think it's going to mix up in the ocean. And the mixing zone, there is no testing of bacteria at the edge of the mixing zone. They're only testing bacteria at the beach. And as my comment letter details, the state standards changed in 2021 so that there is a zone of initial dilution is the term that they use for Enterococcus, and to come up with a 7,000 number. But a zone of initial dilution under state law is no longer allowed for Enterococcus. It's only allowed for toxic pollutants, and Enterococcus is not a toxic pollutant.
Clarifying, please. I'd like to really be clear with you on the same question.
Yes.
The standard numbers that are listed, 35 and 130, are for what the recreational waters surrounding the site, as per the diagram that was provided with the 5 different sampling sites. Whereas the second permitting number is the raw effluent prior to being released. So it wouldn't be, so the 7,150 number is not received at one of those sampling sites. It's the direct effluent. This is what I'm hearing from the administration here present. So I'm trying to understand if that's your understanding of where that 7,150 comes from, or higher, or if you believe that those readings are actually at the sampling sites that surround the mixing area. And it does show that the bacteria is tested at 5 different sites surrounding the mixing area.
Yeah, the bacteria, so let's get where you're correct and where my understanding differs from what you said. You are correct in that the 7,000 number is what can come out the pipe. The 335 and 130 is the number that has to be in the water, in the ocean.
So have we exceeded those 130 values at the sampling sites after? And this is
the permit. The permit does not require sampling in the ocean for bacteria.
Okay, so the 130 standard is still not. So what is the standard allowable of the effluent prior to being released? What is the standard that is for the same thing? Because it looks like it says standard and permit, but we're talking about two totally different things. If you're testing water that's already entered the mixing zone, it's a completely different sample than testing raw effluent prior to being released.
Yeah, we have no data about what bacteria is at the point of discharge in the ocean or at any of those 6 sample sites or anywhere other than at the beach at 3 points at Lidgate Park. There's been no, and that's part of the monitoring problem is we don't even have any bacteria numbers at the discharge point or in the mixing zone or outside of the mixing zone.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, I think that clarifies a lot. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wonder.
Is it for Joe?
It is really for our Public Works team.
Okay.
But it's regarding something that Jill shared.
Okay.
So it was meaningful for me to hear when she said that the test, whether that was intentional or not, that the test happened on a Monday when the effluent comes out, the ocean outfall is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So for the farthest end, and it was also stated that it was a low, low flow day where we sometimes have very high flow days. So can you speak to that?
Okay, so as I mentioned before, the outfall is permitted for when we have non-spec. That means when our
So it's like a rainy day.
Yes, and so the day that we got that exceedance, there was one day, and it's an isolated case. We immediately went to in fact, we were, I think, at the golf course, and what we did is we just high dose chlorine. We just said, really put high dose chlorine on the effluent to kill all the bugs, and that's really the best way of killing the bugs is through chlorination, through disinfection. And so we took care of that. And subsequently, when we did test and we were below the 7,000 limits, then we went back to the outfall. And it should be noted that in the past several months, we've been going to the outfall a lot more than just the Tuesday to Thursday because we had problems with our effluent pump that pumps to the golf course. So the golf course did not have irrigation water for several weeks at a time.
I recall.
Yeah, so it is, we try to do it only Tuesday to Thursday routinely, but it's not necessarily, set in stone. That sometimes we have to go outside of that.
While we're on the conversation of the golf course, can I follow up on that?
You a follow-up?
I have a follow-up on the golf course. So I've been talking a lot about the use on the golf course. And as you said, the pumps were down and we weren't receiving any golf course water. I'm wondering, what is the percentage of what we currently, if the pumps are working and we don't have the delay, what is the percentage of R2 or water that's remaining to go out if we can? Because from my understanding, the golf course will take all the water we can provide.
I'd like to think that. Again, it's dependent on the weather. If it's raining, then they'll stop taking water. But right now, because we want to keep exercising the outfall, we do it Tuesday to Thursday.
Why do we want to continue to exercise the outfall if we could use the water on the park? Why would we continue?
Because we're really dependent on the outfall as our source of discharge. If that system clogs for any reason,
Okay.
then we're
So if
really
we stop
in hot
using it for
water,
a couple
right.
of months, you're worried that it could break and not be
Right.
functional if we do need it.
Right.
So we just continue to use it. even though we-
And the testing, we want to make sure that we keep on top of the testing requirements and submit the testing reports that we need to. So just to keep on our toes, we want to make sure that we meet all of these.
So you're saying that
requirements.
even if we do everything that we can to provide the pumps that are additional to be able to utilize all the water on the land, you would still want to use the outfall point?
Yes.
Real quick, I'll get to you, because it's a follow-up. You mentioned the testing or the sampling. Jill made a comment about sampling being done on non-discharge days. Is that true? Are we doing the sampling on non-discharge days?
I'm not aware of that. In fact, the picture that you saw shows discharge.
Monday is actually even more significant than just not a discharge day because it would have been prior to multiple non-discharge days. It would have been the last day before discharge restarted. So if you stop on Thursday, you've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the Monday testing for the water to get clearer. So it would be the worst day to test.
During a non-discharge day?
Well, it's not even the non-discharge, but the last non-discharge day before we start redischarging, it has 4 days to clear up. So if you did it on a Friday, it would be a lot different than a Monday because it just stopped.
That's kind of my
But-
point. I think
yeah.
that was what she was alluding
it's
to,
like-
is that we're sampling on days that would give
The worst
us
day of the week.
a better
That
response.
was just my question, though, and he said this is when we had a pump problem, so we were discharging almost every day. Correct? That's what he said. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as, we're always going to have anomalies, we're always going to have rain. I'm just talking about our standard operating procedures, not when we get on flood or not when we get on rain. Just how we operate out there on a day-to-day basis when everything is normal. That's
So
kind of,
one of the things that we really pay attention to is the level of chlorine residual, because we did in the past have problems meeting our wet test because of the chlorine, high level of chlorine killing the urchins or causing the urchins not to reproduce.
go ahead, Councilmember Kaua'i.
okay, on page 11, and several different pages, we say only 3 diffusers are currently open. Why are 3 diffusers closed, and how long have they been closed?
You know, nobody really knows. Again, logically, it's because this was designed for 1.5 MGD, and because of those low flows, only half was opened. I mean, that's my deduction, but
But we could have 6 open if we wanted to?
we can open it.
So we have a technical reason why it's better to have 3 diffusers than 6.
The plant is only functioning at half capacity.
Okay.
Or reduced capacity. So
And then, have you looked at the current? Like, I think somewhere I read it goes south, but I really think it goes north.
Yeah, I
I think
can't confirm
that
that.
matters in terms of
Yeah, so
the
the
mixing.
main point, I think, is the fact that the current is pulling offshore. The diver, in fact, the schedules it quarterly, and there's several times where he cannot dive because the ocean is too rough. And he normally dives, he says he drops in the shallow, gets drifted over the diffusers. He has to come up, go back to the beginning, and go down, and let the current take him through.
Mr. Bulasan?
Just to follow up and clarifying on Council Chair's question, so the standard practice for testing, is it always on Monday, or is
No,
there
we
multiple
test
times?
whenever we're going out to the outfall.
Okay. And so it doesn't matter on the day, it's more of a matter of,
Yeah, every day that we go out to the outfall, we do the
oh,
test.
okay, that makes sense.
That's my understanding.
I actually have a lot of questions, but I'll go one at a time and you can just pace me. But so related to the raw sewage, you kind of said no, that it's not raw sewage, and you kind of said yes. So I just want to be really clear, when you're talking about what she called R3, we're talking about not R2 water that hasn't been treated with chlorine. Is
Yeah.
that?
So we R2 is pretty high level. I mean, it's already secondary treatment. Just to give you an idea, St. Island was raw sewage, and they went to primary treatment initially, only primary treatment, which is just settling. Now they're required to go to a secondary, I think, treatment.
So R3, we're going to call it, which is not raw sewage,
Well-
but it's been only lightly.
I don't want to call it R3.
Okay, thank you.
R3 can be done with just primary.
Okay.
Wailua is a secondary treatment plant, and we chlorinate, but per the permit, we only can chlorinate to 0.4 mgl per liter, yeah, to go to the outfall. And when you go to the golf course, we chlorinate to as much as the grass can handle, so sometimes 4, yeah.
Okay.
So, there's one big difference in the chlorination levels.
Okay, so really it's the chlorination levels. So how much of what we're able to put out is actually R2? Why would we put, it was the chlorine in the sea urchins, right? That we're not putting this higher level. So are we able, and I'm going to say it again, even though I know you want to use the outfall point, but would we be able to create only R2 water and only utilize it on land, only utilize it on parks and within these sites that are filtration, absorption beds, for things like that?
Thank you for bringing that up. And that's where we keep talking about future landfill siting requirements, needing more land.
Wastewater, not landfill.
Yes, sorry. Wastewater.
That's another thing.
They need land too. Anyway, the key is storage, both surge, inflow, and outfall, treated storage. The key is storage. That all future treatment facilities, I think, will need to meet these compliance issues, because there's we're dealing with biological process, and if there's an upset, as she mentioned, what are you going to do? If you don't have any surge capacity to hold that, and then treat it, and then have good material to reuse or to dispose of, you can't do anything else. You could end up dumping raw sewage, or untreated.
So the answer is yes, right? Like if we had enough land and if we had the capacities, the pumps, whatever investments required, we would not need the outfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
again, I think you heard her talk about the membrane technology. Isn't there technologies out there that will reduce the toxicity of the rubbish? You're stuck on this. No, we got to do this. We got to build ponds. We need all this acreage. We need 30 acres. The fact of the matter, let me finish. The fact of the matter is we have technologies today that will reduce the toxicity of the outflow or what's coming out, so you don't have to deal with all of that.
Right.
Can we not get off of this old-fashioned thinking that let's go look at this? And, I'll be honest, I didn't know what that lady was going to say. She could have told me that membrane was rubbish. But you heard it, and she's an expert. And I think we've provided enough, Donald, enough information to you guys to at least explore. But I hear today, it's like, no, we're not. We're going to stick to this. No, I need all this acreage because we got to have these beds. We got to be able to put the doo-doo water in this pond when we really don't have to anymore because of technology.
And so, actually, so we're in the middle of just improving, fixing what's there. And we're talking about, almost 70 million, yeah? So, and the big hurdle is the tsunami building requirements. Whether we can build brand new facility on the existing site. So yes, it would work for the next site, the next regional. And there is a high cost of membrane, operational costs. In fact, Maui just built a brand new regional, central Maui facility, a 4 MGD plant. They did not select MBR. I thought they would. MBR is like it's a perfect solution, as you mentioned. But there is a cost to it. There's a very high maintenance cost. Maui decided to go with a sequential batch activated sludge, sequential activated sludge process, which is a kind of high-tech level of regulating air. But they did, and they had a clean slate of paper, and they still selected another type. So even though MBR seems like the one answer that fits all, it's not the best when you look at the costs of operation.
So what is the best? Is it just keep
I don't know.
50, 60, 70 million on fixing a facility that's in a tsunami zone?
It still seems like the best solution when you look at the emerging regulations of EPA.
Well,
they keep adding new things. The way we're going is reverse osmosis and creating drinking water. It's getting crazy.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get into a debate here. I will just tell you I disagree with that. I think dumping millions and millions, which will soon be $100 million, the rate we're going, to fix this plant that is in a zone that has been reduced, the capacity has been reduced, that we continue to have issues with this doo-doo going in the water. I think the cost is if we don't change. The cost will come later, but we're thinking short term, and we're not thinking long term. And I think, and I'll get to your timeline later because it's frustrating for me, Councilmember Paula.
Can we clearly answer Jill's question about why we're not disinfecting the sewage? So that question was asked.
Okay, we are.
And the chlorine is what we discussed.
It's per the limit. We gotta follow the permit.
But what pumps out is disinfected only with chlorine.
Yeah, we're gonna get chlorine.
And it has to be below that level.
You have to follow the permit.
Okay, so that hopefully answers that.
It is disinfected.
And then PFAS, are we testing for PFAS within our wastewater facility?
It's not a requirement. It's still not a requirement. In fact, EPA stated that December of last year they were going to come up with standards. They still have not come up with the standards.
Okay.
So we're kind of holding our breath, but again, with the current administration, that might be deferred for 4 years. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Calder?
About 3 or 4 years ago, when we were putting a fire hydrant in, we sort of broke the sewer pipe. Do you remember when that happened? Right up there next to the Garden Inn.
Was before 21, I think.
We put a camera down the pipes, and we saw all the pukas in it. So we put a shim in the pipe. Do you remember that? We put
That was before my.
we put a sleeve in the pipe. This was maybe about 4 years ago. We put a sleeve in the pipe. Okay, well.
Well, I don't know if they put that could have been a temporary fix. My understanding is they actually replaced a section of pipe.
Because we paid to put in this like, reminds me of arthroscopic surgery or something. We went in, we took a picture, and we put this camera down the pipe, and we put something in there. Because not too long ago, we talked about I&I, so I learned a new acronym, infiltration and inflow. So my understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong, is when it rains really hard or when we have a high tide, we have so many little holes along our pipes that the water comes in, and that's what overwhelms the system there. So it seems like if we're looking at a temporary fix, we could put another shim or sleeve, or apparently we learned about the pathway. Maybe Troy remembers how we filled it, we made it smoother. It's a little thinner, but we could maybe lower the amount of water infiltration and inflow that's coming in, so we would not have this big problem. Have we looked at that? Maybe not.
Yes. The question is, we do have an I&I problem, and we are looking at that. Probably the low-hanging fruit. I'm not sure how this relates to this outfall. But.
Okay. Then a couple of small ones. The state revolving fund, when we're getting all this money, my understanding of the state revolving fund, the reason it's revolving is we have to pay them back. Is that correct? Okay. And then I have on page 18, you use the word literal. The interruption of the literal flow.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Again, I'm not sure about that project, but in this context, I would think it's the lateral movement of the water.
So it literally means what it is. So it's whatever's coming. That word literal means, it's spelled different, but is that, okay, we don't know what that means. All right, and then wet testing, that's where we look at these creatures in the water. So is WET an acronym, and if it is, what does it mean?
Yes, the acronym is in my glossary. It's whole effluent toxicity.
Okay, whole effluent, okay, so that's what the WET testing means.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with acronyms. Whole effluent toxicity.
Yeah.
Okay, and then can we just sort of put it on our list of to-do that we can send over as a result of this? Can we look at what the current is? Because to me, the current is a very big issue. If the current is in fact moving south,
I actually checked with a fisherman who goes out there quite frequently, and he says it's variable. It goes either towards Kaua'i or towards Lihui. really
Right, so
varies.
if it's going towards Kapaa and we're putting babies and, I learned the new term, silver mermaids, kupuna. If silver mermaids and keiki are swimming in our Morgan's Pond, can we be testing Morgan's Pond? Are we testing that regularly? It should be, seems like we should test that because we don't want that to be a septic tank that people are swimming in. Is that too crude to say that?
Okay,
I want
well,
to make sure we have clean water in there. Let me
You know,
make it
I don't want to seem like a joke here, but, you know, I think everybody understands that we all contribute to this problem.
Yes.
You know, everybody gets waste.
Yeah.
And you know, when you look at a real hot day in a pool, in a municipal pool, you know that some of these guys are using the,
peeing in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that at some point you're going to get,
Okay, so the kids might be peeing in the pond, and then so that's, or whoever.
Right.
They're not pooping in it.
well, yeah.
Maybe occasionally.
And what would be interesting is if you did a test and it's higher than our effluent, then you knew that there's something else contributing to that.
Yes.
We know that every time there's a storm, chocolate water comes down from the river. And to me, that pollution from that is, I mean, it is really, really bad. You know, that's, I don't want to distract from our situation. I just want to say
Yeah,
there's
I
other
don't want to either, because
Those are good
our
points.
situation is an issue.
Right.
And I understand what the chocolate water do. And like I said, I'm not worried about the anomalies.
Okay.
I'm talking about our day-to-day
Right, right.
function down there.
And-
Are we operating it in a safe manner?
Right.
That's all I'm talking about.
And we hold it serious. I mean, we take this serious. I mean, our mission statement reflects that. We want to do the right thing, you know. So, but within reason.
Yeah, I know Councilmember Holland had the floor, but you still have more questions?
Honestly, Felicia, you just answered the last two questions I had.
Perfect.
So
Go ahead.
I have, this is a short one. I'm looking on page 13, penalties for violation including up to 60,000 per violation per day and up to 2 years in prison. Am I going to prison? Are we going to prison? Who goes to prison if we're violating? You see, you know, like, let's just.
It won't be us.
Okay, well.
And I hope it's not me.
I'm kind of being playful, but like, how do you put the county in prison, right? So like, when that's saying, that's like a felony if it's 2 years in prison. So, and $60,000 per day per violation, that's a big violation. So who typically does go to prison if somebody's going to prison for something like this?
Ultimately, I think if it's a blatant, if it's done blatantly, then they'll
willfully
probably
and
exact
knowingly.
it, right?
Okay.
But if it's unintentional, and I would like to think that most of the incidents that happened with us, like an isolated case of the exceedance, is not intentional. We do have old facilities, and we're trying to fix them. But, you know, again, things happen. And again, the whole, you know, like they said, it's not whether you make a mistake or not, it's how you correct it.
Right.
And so we are, you know, we know that we have these old situation, and we know we're prepared for emergencies. We want to make sure that if there is a situation, that we correct it as soon as possible.
So it's the intention, like if somebody is dumping pump trucks directly into the ocean, that would show intention, right? If somebody's coming with their pump truck and don't want to pay to dump it, and they dump it where it's going into a canal that goes into the ocean, that would be an example of an intentional violation.
Yes.
Okay, just trying to look at what that continuum. I'm kind of joking. I don't really think I'm going to jail, but I just wanting to look at how do we respond.
Sure.
Mr. Bulasan, go ahead, Mr. Garrison.
So I just wanted you to reiterate, you mentioned that you're looking to extend the public comments.
Well, it's not for me to decide. Again, Department of Health is the director determines whether there will be a hearing. I just said that my guess is that he will.
Well, I will be sending a letter from me, and I would encourage, if you folks feel like we need a public hearing, that each council member send a letter as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, two things. I think intentionally not doing what we should be doing is intentionally releasing stuff into the.
So it's in
I think
the
it's
middle of the
interpretation.
continuum.
I want to ask you, Mr. Fujimoto, what do you need to do this to the highest and best standard, not the bare requirements of the, not the requirements that we're going to have to keep chasing every year when they get stricter and stricter, but for us to do a world-class, wonderful solution. Do you need a staff of 100 people? Do you need, what would you need to do things to the highest and best ability that we could?
I think that this just sobered us up on the wastewater issues. I think we do have priorities that we need to now look at. And one is, completing these projects that are so important at Wailua. And so I think we may have to do some, last minute adjustments on our funding so that we can finish up these projects.
I have a follow-up on that.
Go ahead.
A couple of years ago, I believe it was, a different group of us approved the floating of $100 million bond to help this wastewater treatment plant. And that didn't get floated, correct? So is that still something we can do, or do we have to restart that whole process?
Okay, so I think there was a misunderstanding. That 100 million CIP list came out during the rate study. And it was only to determine, again, the SRF repayment rates.
Okay.
And it wasn't proposed to be a bond. Again, my understanding is the SRF funding source is the lowest possible funding source. I think it's even lower than the bond issue.
So that, again, state revolving fund,
Right.
in case somebody's watching.
And that's why we kind of rely on that a lot. But because of the uncertainty of the federal administration, we're not sure how much money is actually going to be reaching us.
And so I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm just going to make this point, is that, I believe, I'm asking Council Chair, I believe in that big, beautiful bill, they decided not to, they were going to take our no interest away or low interest away on our infrastructure bonds from the federal, which really goes to the state. So our state revolving fund is still relying on those federal funds that they were going to take that away from us. So that's why I worry also if we lag on getting this work done, we might lose those good interest rates.
Follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Just on funding, Director Tanigawa, would you be open to allocating roles dedicated solely and entirely within the Public Works Department to seek grants and funding opportunities from federal state sources, particularly and specifically for wastewater and solid waste? Do you think that would help? Do you think having like a dedicated, because from what I understand, the meetings I've had over the last couple of weeks about this issue in general is that seems to be the big issue that we have is the funding.
So we can discuss the possibility with the administration next budget cycle.
Maybe you're not aware, but we have a lobbyist. We have a DC lobbyist that we.
I mean, literally somebody that all they do is search grants.
That's what they do.
Apply for grants.
We got to ask.
For that one thing.
We need to reach out to to our lobbyists in DC and ask, and they will send us in the right direction. I mean, that's obviously, we got to rely on that.
I'm just concerned from the conversations that I've had, right, so I'm concerned that, like, even though we have that connection, that we literally need a body that just fills out the applications, completes the requirements, goes off to procurement, does the very specifics of, like, bringing this money home, because there is money sitting on the table that we're not getting, and the level of funding that we are talking about here is obviously not something that we can do from within the county on a one-off thing. And I'm just concerned that even if we have that lobbyist, that it has to be a dedicated, and I really would encourage the administration to discuss what that would look like, to have somebody who all they do every single day is apply for those grants, fill out the forms, report back for the grants, make sure that they're doing it correctly, and that's all they do for wastewater and solid waste every day of the year. Because the funding capacity that we require for this is just something that we're not going to end this. I mean, to be quite frank, $70 million to invest in a system that we're not going to hopefully be using for another 10 years is incredibly fiscally irresponsible. I mean, how if you were sitting in the seat, I'm sure you'd feel the same. I mean, how do you invest that much money when we know we have to relocate the site? I mean, I'd like to see us just get the money we need and move to relocation and figure out an interim period where we have these next 10 years where we're filtering.
We're in question.
Sorry.
We'll have a lot of time for comments. I just want to.
I tried.
Again, going back to the penalties, we don't want to end up paying $60,000 a day either.
Or going to jail.
Yeah, I don't want to go to jail.
Can we bring Jill back on? I just want to see if she has any final comments before we we open up for public?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you so much for everyone here engaging in this really important issue. One thing that I just wanted to underscore on the difference of what the water quality standard is and what we're allowed to do under the permit is that the county has asked for these high levels. The county has hired an engineer to put together a report to ask for these high levels. So if you as a council don't think that this is consistent with public health and safety and really want to discharge at the water quality standard for turbidity, for bacteria, for nutrients, you just need to withdraw the request to have these high levels, that the state is giving these high levels because you have asked for it. So I would encourage the county to actually, particularly with the bacteria, do everything we can to actually meet the water quality standard at the discharge. And I would love to have further conversations about the technical side of things offline as well.
Just follow up, not to beat a dead horse, but again, on this standard versus permit versus discharge data versus data at Lidgate Park, I feel like we're not comparing apples to apples on it again. Like, we have data at Lidgate Park with like 192 to 130, and then right next to it we have discharge data that has over 8,057 Kaua'i. But that 8,000 isn't actually taken from in the ocean at the discharge, right? That's at the plant. And this 192 at Lidgate Park is actually coming from the ocean. So having the 1,000, the 7,150 next to the 130 maximum, that 130 maximum is in the ocean, but the 7,000 is at the plant prior to it getting into the ocean. So should we be asking for a lower number at the plant?
That's what Surfrider is asking for. Surfrider is saying that the number that comes out at the plant should be 35 and 130 because people use the ocean, right? We have not taken any data of what the bacteria number is in the ocean when people are surfing, when people are diving, when people are swimming. And there is a real health risk. You know, it comes out of the discharge, comes out of the pipe. If you're complying, it comes out of the pipe at 7,000. And then there's no other data except at the beach where we can see it's sometimes 782, right? Which is above 130. We are violating the state, like we are violating the water quality standard at the beach by discharging up to 7,000. So there's a problem that needs to be fixed.
Okay, I guess I need clarification because I don't think it's coming out of a pipe at 7,000. That's not what I heard. But Donald, if you want to clarify.
No, so that sample is what comes out of the pipe. But I would like to propose before we just change this unilaterally, because, the understanding is supposed to be the zone of mixing, yeah. After it's mixed, what is the real reading? And, we should start doing that. We should start sampling Kaua'i in the ocean to see what it really is.
I thought
we were. Without changing, automatically just down.
So when you say out of the pipe, are you saying that's the treated sewage out of the pipe before it goes into the pipe to the ocean?
Yes.
So what would change it between the out of the pipe and at the out in the ocean? What would change? If it's not being disinfected in that pipe,
what would change is the mixing, the zone of mixing. We're talking about an infinite source of water.
Right, okay. But we don't know because we don't test.
It's like the guy in the pool. You get the whole pool to dilute. You're not going to find a trace of it.
I understand that, but one little boy streaming pee is not 8,057 whatever of bacteria.
Well, compared to the ocean, it might be the same analogy.
My question is, we don't know because we haven't tested.
Exactly.
And what would it take to test that?
We're going to have to probably hire some consultants and start doing some testing.
Okay. Any more questions for Jill before I go ahead?
Thank you again, Joe, for being here. 2 questions actually combined into one. Would you be willing to continue to work with us as a council and as a county to figure out the best financial opportunities to fund the kind of projects that we need? and to look at the most affordable temporary solutions to address this outfall in the meantime while we build a new facility over the next 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Go ahead.
You know, you talked about how, and when it became very clear that's two separate sets of numbers, so how can we compare them against each other? You said that it's because of lack of data. What would it take to get the data that everybody seems to need but that we don't have?
I guess testing the ocean water, the actual water.
So does you guys, does Surfrider do any of that testing as well, or you just rely on either the county or the state?
Surfrider has Blue Water Task Force, which tests, I believe, near the Wailua River outlet, but we do not do testing in the ocean at that point.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Joe? If not, any more questions for Donald and his team? If not, I do want to take some public testimony.
We have three registered speakers. Dr. Carl Berg, followed by Robert Zelkowski.
Gosh, it's been a while, Dr. Berg. It's been a while.
Aloha. Thank you very much for letting me testify in this, and thank you very much, Chair, for calling this meeting.
If you could just say your name for
My name is Dr. Carl Berg. I am testifying here today as a private citizen. I am not representing Surfrider Foundation, who just took over all of that. But I am a long-term resident of Kauai. I'm a professional ecologist. I am senior scientist of the Surfrider Foundation's Kauai chapter. My research has dealt here on Kauai with a whole number of pollution problems, including the amount of pesticides in the waters out on the west side, the Roundup in the honey, sucralose as an indicator of how much sewage is in our streams, and we have been testing the waters around Kauai since 2007. I'm going to alter my written testimony slightly after what I just heard, and the question came up of why don't you test the water out there? And in 2011 to 2012, a Hawaiian family were testing the waters in the surf break right out there, and the values were 19,863 bacteria. Right, and that was on a Saturday. But we don't know back then, we really don't know what days of the week they're pumping or how much they're pumping. And the comment was, we don't know the current patterns. Where does it go and how does it affect the Morgan's Pond? One comment that was made was by this environmental consultant was the sand moves in and out. Well, the water carries the sand in and out. So the currents don't flow out all the time. They flow into shore also, if they're bringing the sand in. But what amazed me in looking at this whole problem was that I could not find any scientific study on the current patterns. And we have to remember that this sewage treatment plant was built in 1967. And I don't think, and there was not an EPA. There were not the requirements there. And what has happened then is that the lore that, oh, the currents just mix this and take it away, is based upon, who knows, opinion of the current patterns. And in talking to my friends here, we have some of the windsurfers say, yeah, you can smell that stuff washing right down.
Dr.
And others
Berg,
say just the...
I'm going to stop you right there because that was your first 3 minutes. I don't remember you the last time you were here, but so you have a 3 minute. You can come back for 3 minutes. How many in the audience are going to testify today? Okay, yeah, I'm going to have to ask you to come back for a second round.
Can I make one quick comment?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much for this. My main concern is that my grandchildren play with your grandchildren in Morgan's Pond, and they get sick. And I don't think it's responsible for the county to continue to have an ocean outfall anymore.
Thank you.
Robert Zelkowski, followed by Bater.
Aloha and good afternoon, council members. My name is Robert Zelkowski. I am a member of the Surfrider Foundation. I sit on the executive committee. I also have been taking water samples for the past 10 or 11 years. I collect samples at Kaua'i Bay and now Willy Willy Stream. And since November, I've been part of the testing team. There's 4 of us who once a month test the samples. I was a chemistry major before chiropractic school, and this stuff is still way over my head. So I'm glad we have the experts, and Jill is pretty amazing. I had, for most of my life, 50 years on Kauai, I've lived on the east side. I've lived Kapa'a, Wailua homesteads. We walk the path, we dunk in Morgan's Pond, we go to different events at Lidgate Pavilion. My wife is performing hula at the Kupuna event next week. I'm videoing it. We've done several weddings on the east side. And 3.5 years ago, after a 22-year engagement, Magenta and I were married on the beach at Nuku'ali'i. So we love the east side. And a couple of quick things to say. The tests that, we have been testing the pond. The past 3 months, Surfrider has been testing Lidgate Pond, and it's been very, very clean. This Saturday, for the first time, we will be sending someone out to the surf break near the Kamalani Bridge, so we'll be testing that more often. The other thing I'd like to say is wider and more general, and it really is about the world, and not so much here. It's very frustrating and very tiring that municipalities, governments, companies use the ocean as its dumping ground. People dump plastic, people put chemicals in there, it floats away. There's a fallacy in wastewater. The solution to pollution is dilution, and that doesn't really take effect. The ocean is very important for us. It gives us recreation, it gives us food, it helps in weather and climate moderation, and it produces, so they say, up to 60% of the oxygen for the atmosphere. So ocean is important, taking care of the ocean is important, and the east side is important. So I'm thankful for this time for testimony, and I hope everyone can work together for an amiable solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bator, followed by Alberto Genovia.
Mahalo, Chair, Council members. Today marks the 80-year, Bator, Keanaina, Keli'i Koa, Kai Kumalie, Kai, and yours truly here. Today marks the 80-year anniversary of the tragic atomic bombing of Hiroshima. Just wanted to state that for a fact. Hawaii DOH has established state water testing for SARS, COVID, H5N1, avian flu, hepatitis, various pharmaceutical, forever chemicals. Yesterday's Star Advertiser, page A10, one of your beautiful clerks made copies for everybody. Hilo's doing a great job over there. I urge immediate communication with the County of Hawaii, possible use of their prototype. We have the expectation that the County Council, as Committee of the Whole, will, with determination, execute and achieve implementation through the proper channel to withdraw, revoke the ill-conceived request of docket number HI 0020257, water pollution control permit number 00257 for the Wailoa treatment plant. We request the County Committee of the Whole to diverge from the permittee applicant, which is the County of Kauai, Department of Public Works, Wastewater Management Division, and contact Daryl Lum, the Clean Water Branch Chief, State of Hawaii. Rescind, retract the water pollution control permit. We do not want approval of the renewal of a national pollution discharge elimination system. Permit to receiving state waters. Definition in their legal notice is, quote, receiving waters, the Pacific Ocean Class A wetland, Class A wet open coastal waters under HRS, Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 11-54-6B, 2B. It is the objective of Class A waters that their use for recreational purposes and aesthetic enjoyment be protected. We appreciate this County Council Committee of the Whole to uphold Hawaii Administrative Rules, Section 11-54-6B, 2B. It is the objective of Class A waters that their use for recreational purposes and aesthetic enjoyment be protected. So, again, mahalo, Chair Raposo, for bringing the guys up here and for your guys' interest so we can deal with this situation. And I had one question about the kind slideshow about bringing the sludge to Lihui. Did any of you guys catch that? No. Why would they want to bring that sludge to Lihui?
I got to stop you there, ma'am.
It's 3 minutes?
Yeah, that's it. You can come back for a second round after everybody goes. Shoots, yeah.
Alberto, followed by Lonnie Psychos.
Hello, Inala. Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm Alberto Genovia. It's my first time ever up here into this state amongst you folks. But I know you folks from all back in the days. I just was wondering about our future, but of course, we always talk about the past. Yeah? And I think that's one thing maybe we should really look at and try to find out exactly. Maybe we should have a little bit more Kaua'i now, in the old kupuna style, try to figure out exactly what is the beneficiary of our land and what do we do to it and why do we keep trying to, I don't know. I think we should try to purify it or make it better for us as the people. Yeah. And I think our family's been here for a long time and, we know the ups and downs. I work with Grow Farm. I mean, this effort that we're doing right now is not that old. I'm pretty sure it's right inside those years of our developers, yeah? When actually, what we're looking at today is another whole different story about what we're trying to evolve into. So I think maybe we should try to look at that and see if that is proper. If our system, wastes, growing more for us, I think the benefit is not to bring in visitors. Maybe they should actually try to involve themselves in our way of life to really have appreciation for us. I don't know. I've been playing this idea of the kingdom, for all my life. And I made a pretty good lifestyle of it, teaching my kids, and I've been trying to get you guys to maybe talk story with me, because all the guys that I know, they're not here no more. So, but of course, the kupuna, I think maybe is right at me. And, because I'm already, 65. So I would like to try to just add a little bit more to this. And let's look at the amount of time you think we got in order to keep paradise. What do we call paradise? Is it Kauai? This is the oldest island. Why are we swamping them? We get enough swamps already, right? Let's talk about that. Let's bring back that. I think another point for I guess what I'm trying to say is like kuleana. I mean, it's been said time and time again. in songs, in myths, and try to bring back this sense of, that thinking of the old times. Because I think that is the vision right there. Not by your nose or how much you can stick in your wallet, but it's like, let's try to figure out that, how do we work with each other, even if you don't have
Okay, I got to stop you there.
a tractor.
It's your first 3 minutes. You can come back after everybody go around. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate them. Thank you for coming, man. Nice seeing you in here.
Lonnie, followed by Sharon Goodwin.
For the record, Lonnie Psychos. First off, I'm fully supportive of raising or maintaining the high level of discharge that currently exists. My rationale for that is not that I promote the pollution of the ocean. My rationale is this county cannot afford a $20 or $40 or $60,000 a day fine. And so if you put yourself in the position like that construction company that was dumping their motor oil into the storm drain up by HIC in Honolulu that flowed into the harbor where I worked, Coast Guard came back and told me they found who did it, they cited them, and they came back 2 years later and told us that they had successfully, the state had successfully prosecuted them for the water violation. So this whole problem is nothing but expensive, and we can't afford to be paying fines on top of everything else. One solution that would seem obvious is simply to move the outflow further offshore. But that's not really a solution because I worked as a crewman on oceanic research vessels, and my own eyeballs have seen the fact that there's stuff growing on the rocks going down 900 fathoms. And so it doesn't matter how far out you put the outfall, it's still going to impact the biology in the ocean, and you'll end up damaging like the habitat where snappers reproduce versus the top of the water where you harm the sea urchins. I do think that the county has been negligent in not, and the state for that matter, at not doing water testing at the beach, as people pointed out at the pond. And so that's something that we need to do. Also, doing a current study is relatively simple in that current studies are old hat. You put electronic device out and it simply tells you which way the current's moving, collect the data, and you find out. It's very common in Hawaii that when you have a bay, that you have rotary currents that switch directions with the tide change. So it's entirely possible that in Wailua Bay, you get rotary current one way with low tide, rotary current the other way with high tide. And thus it becomes predictable where the effluent's going to move. Mostly I want to thank you, Mel, for promoting reverse osmosis or other ways, because next question is we need to test the sludge.
Okay, you can come back. Is there, how many others want to testify? Okay. Yeah, well, there's a couple more with their hands up. So I'm going to have to take a caption break, unfortunately, because we're at that point. So we'll take 10 minutes, and we'll be back in 10 minutes.
Okay, call the meeting back to order. Next speaker, please.
Last speaker is Sharon Goodwin.
Okay, thank you. For the record, I'm Sharon Goodwin. Thank you for being here.
We have to be.
I just got to ask Mr. Fujimoto during the break if this Lidgate pipe system was planned to be temporary or permanent. And he said permanent. So he said that he swims there. His grandchildren swim there. I have 2 grandchildren after a long, long wait. Lonnie is 7 and Kai is 5, and I take them there to swim and play. And it just hurts me so much to know that this is all happening. But he thinks that the standards are being upheld, and so here's what I want to ask. Why don't we have signage there to inform the public, not just the residents, but all of the tourists who come and don't know that there's this pipe out there? I think that there should be signage at the Lidgate Park. I think it should be at the Wailua Park, and I think that it should be at Papaloa. There's a beach there, and it's a very popular one. I think that there should be signage informing the public and the residents that this is there so that we can all make a choice, because that's what life's about. It's about choosing once we know and are educated about things. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Anyone in the audience that did not register that would like to testify, please come up.
Council members, Jeff Lindner for the record. Donald, at the beginning stated the main objective is to get into compliance. It appears that, that compliance is subjective. And I'm thinking it's because we didn't do enough testing. If you get the testing, and first of all, I have to say there is a compliance. What happens if you're not in compliance? And also, I don't know if you guys know, but the state takes over the EP. The state is paid a third of their budget by the EPA, right? And they're supposed to be fulfilling their duty. They're supposed to be, sort of overseeing what the EPA wants. And so it isn't clear that how much the state has discretion over with the EPA. Are they, can they relax things like that? So, and then also I heard someone say that the state is not testing, that the state didn't test, it's just the county. So I guess we heard intentional. I guess the question is not testing intentional? And then you can go back with all that data. It doesn't matter how much data is there. You can go back and see, well, this could have been seen a long time ago, right? And this thing should have been sort of nipped in the bud. And I think Surfrider, I think when they're talking EPA. And so it's just not clear as far as what that relationship. I've had a little, experience with safe drinking water, and they do have some discretion. And then when, they talk about the county putting up this, it's not really the county. The state has already approved it. So if the state's approved it, I guess, I think that's right, that they're asking for something that they've already got clearance on the state. So that state part, I think the state needs to step up. The state should have been doing testing, from a long time, and they should have required the county to do more testing. And I think that the intentional part, or that something needs to happen, fairly quick. And then you guys control the budget, and so when you hear, we can't afford something, well, if you're not compliant, you're going to be able to afford it, and you can set the budget. So anyway.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else in the audience that signed up and want to speak for a second time? Yep, Dr. Berg?
Aloha, my name is Carl Berg. I think the point here is that this is an old recurring problem, that we have the permit is just an extension of one that's been given on and on and on. But I would like to remind the council that this problem was brought up around 2010, maybe 2013, and at that time the council approved a study which came out in 2015 on how to fix this problem. And in it, they looked at the most cost-effective ways of doing that, and injection wells were one of those over the short term and the long term. The budget items are in there. You can see what the cost is. But the county has failed to follow up on that 2015 plan, and we're in the situation now where the Department of Health easy way out is just to renew the permit and don't even look at it. And it's only when the community, in my case Surfrider, looks at the water quality data, looks at our grandchildren getting sick and saying, no, this is not right. And that's where we came up with the technical expertise of Surfrider headquarters and our own personal dealing with the polluted water, that we felt that we had to put up a fight here to get, and the first step is to get the Department of Health to have a public hearing. I appreciate very much that the county will now ask the Department of Health for that public hearing. And also, I would like the county to say that they would like to rescind that permit until a further time, get it amended. One of the technical aspects here was that they pointed out that the county wastewater treatment plant put out greater than 8,000 bacteria on a couple of occasions, which was more than the 7,000. They said it was greater than 8,000. They didn't test like Surfrider tests that can show that it can be 20,000. And I would estimate that water coming out of that wastewater treatment plant would probably have a bacteria count of 200,000 that gets mixed. And that's why you pick up high counts of bacteria at the surf breaks. We're not just talking at the pond, we're talking at the surf breaks where everyone windsurfs, kite surfs, guys are out there diving in there. So I think one aspect that was not brought up was that this place smells, and that the beach there smells, and that if you can smell it, there's also a virus or a bacteria attached to those chemicals that are there. So it's not just the water quality issues of pumping sewage out and having it percolate to the surface.
Okay, Dr. Berg, I got to stop there.
I have a clarifying question.
Go ahead.
Dr. Berg, do you support injection wells?
That's a new question. That's not a clarifying.
No, he mentioned that injection wells were.
I think the experience we have in Hawaii is Maui, where they have an injection well and then all the sewage went out in the reef and killed the reef.
Right, because you said
But there are other places where it works really well.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Right. My suggestion here is that we shut off the outfall immediately. If there's an overflow, it should go to the golf course ponds. What do? You can either close Lidgate Park, close the beach, or you can close the golf course. You have an option. You have to do something with that excess water.
Okay, I got to stop. Thank you, Doc. Next, ma'am, yeah, you can come up.
For the record, Keana Keli'ikoa, Kaua'i, Kai, and yours truly, Tor. I am a great-grandmother. So Thank goodness last Tuesday, the 29th of July, the tsunami did not hit Kaua'i. That would have been catastrophic for the WWTF. Raw sewage from Malka, as countless toilets would continue to flush. Just picture that scenario. We are so lucky that didn't happen. Would you guys be out there shoveling doo-doo, kukai, whatever you want to call it? What entity would be responsible? The National Guard? I urge immediate communication with the County of Hawaii, possible use of their prototype. Did any of you guys read yesterday's paper, the one that your clerk made a copy of this? Ask them where they got the $337 million. Okay, maybe they could give you some headway of where to get that fiduciary kala, whatever it's called. Okay, question. The County of Kauai has paid a total of fines. They've been fined so many times. What about back in November 2018 when that lady was driving down the road by Aliho Drive? 8,000 gallons, the manhole cover blew. How much did that lady get? Lucky she didn't get killed. Okay, sand. It blocks those outfall diffusers. Every now and then, those diffusers get blocked with sand. Oh yeah, back to the sludge being transported to Lihue. If that sludge comes here, what are you guys going to do with it? That's what our wonderful team over here stated that in their PowerPoint. Oh yeah, we brought up several points of being arrested. Well, I was really thinking of bringing a jar with me with some water and Clorox and a little feces in there, and I was going to shake it up. I was going to take that cover off, but I didn't want to risk that arrest factor, yeah? So that's what we smell, the Wailua corridor to nearly Hanamaulu, is that feces. And Dr. Berg just mentioned, if we can smell that crap, well, that's viruses. And everyone's, freaked out and wear masks and did the COVID trip. And, here we can get it, we can inhale it, So that is a health risk. My son was born here in 78. My eldest, and back then, back in 78, you could still smell that doodle, man. It stunk really bad. That was 1978. Like this article says, to quote the County Department of Environmental Management Director Wesley Sigawa, told the people in attendance that, quote, unfortunately, due to deferred maintenance, today we are spending more than $337 million to repair and upgrade this treatment facility. It will be a costly lesson for our county.
Okay,
well,
I'll stop. I'll let you finish your sentence, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mahalo. Everybody's hungry for lunch.
Lonnie?
For the record, Lonnie Sykos. I'd like to thank Mel for inviting the administration and Surfrider here today to speak on this matter before the public. We heard a very informative discussion and observations about policy and policy changes that we may want to make. And I'd also like to point out that today's discussion was so productive for us because the chair did invite the administration to come and speak, unlike a couple of weeks ago when we had actually more than two, plantation housing and shoreline protection bills in which they were introduced at first reading, and there was no one from the administration called to speak. I apologize to the chair for stating that I thought he had wasted my time at the meeting, but it turns out the chair is not the one responsible for no administration speaking at the previous meeting.
We'll reel you back to the topic on the agenda.
Correct. And so what I want to thank the chair for is not violating our civil rights today by failing to have the administration here. That was a grievous damage to the public civil rights that occurred before. So thank you very much. And one other thing is sewage sludge is an issue all over the country. Some of the places where my relatives live, farms have been utterly destroyed and their livestock killed by the chemistry that's inside the sludge. And so I simply say that of the many issues we're dealing with here is the testing of the sludge and how to dispose of it depending upon what chemistry is inside the sludge will be a big problem today and going into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? If not, did Jill want to? I think Jill.
Thank you. After listening to the comments, I had two quick remarks. One of which is to explain that the permit number, the 7,000, is not a result of a mixing zone study. It is a result of a 1996 dilution study that came up with a number of a 54-to-1 dilution of the ocean. And so the state did some math and came up with this 7,000 number. And also, even though mixing zones are not allowed for bacteria, there are standards for when you can have one, which includes showing that you're using the best degree of treatment control for the pollutant. And also, if you want a mixing zone to be renewed, you have to show that, quote, the Department of Health undertook a thorough review of known and available means of preventing, controlling, or abating the enterococcus discharge. So there's been no analysis of how to stop the high bacteria. You're not using the best technology available, and it relies on a 1996 initial dilution study. I'm happy to discuss it in further detail with anyone. Thank you.
Well, every time you switch, yeah. Any further discussion? The meeting is called back to order. No discussion? Okay.
I have a little bit.
Go ahead.
I'll try and be really brief.
Go ahead.
Regarding our National Pollution Discharge Elimination System renewal with the Department of Health, just to be clear of what this is about, I want to express gratitude to our local Surfrider team for raising this issue, to their national team for assistance, to assist all of us and contacting us. I also want to acknowledge Surfrider as a volunteer group for testing the water quality in so many places for years. Every month we get their water quality testing as well as their net and plastic pickup. So that's important. And while I want to acknowledge that the maintenance neglect of our 60-year-old wastewater treatment plant is not the fault of, everybody in place right now, there's history on it, but it is our responsibility. So whether it's our fault or not, it is our responsibility. So we had an earlier person who was going to use the standard line is the solution is the solution to pollution. There's some truth in that, but we need to much more aggressively move towards new technology and a new wastewater treatment plant to fix that. And I did agree with Mr. Lindner's statement of we have a form of subjective compliance due to not enough testing. And I appreciated that our county team said we'll try and get some more testing done a little bit more regularly. I know that the water can be really rough out there, and the state should never have stopped the testing. So we got to get that testing going, but I appreciate that this has come before us and that we will work with the Department of Health and our Public Works. Gratitude to Surfrider to get this fixed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh,
no.
The public testimony is done right now.
No, I just have a question.
No.
You guys contact the county of Kaua'i and look into
Yeah, I already did. Go ahead.
I have a discussion.
Councilmember Hala.
I have quite a bit to say. As somebody that has a background in marine biology and pollution chemistry, I find this really offensive. I find the entire situation extremely offensive, that we're even in this situation and we've gone so many decades with this. The very first opening day of pollution chemistry in university, that's the thing that they tell you across the thing. Dilution is the solution to pollution. And there's a certain aspect of truth to that in certain situations. But the real solution to pollution is to stop generating pollution.
Yes.
And figuring out a way that we can do that, and a way that we can not just look at the bare minimum requirements and these ideas of these bare minimum requirements, like meeting these requirements and constantly chasing our tail to meet the requirements as the requirements constantly change, is not proactive. It's reactive. And I want us to really fund a solution that's proactive. Fund a solution that permanently stops both the injection well need and the outfall need of this. We do need absolutely comprehensive testing. And there are things to consider. We do have a huge amount of wastewater that's generated in flow and flooding events. About half of the sampled water in Hanalei Bay was actually fecal matter from pigs during those flooding events. So we have, multitudes of issues. So we already deal with those issues every time we have a flood. To have this consistent outflow of human fecal waste into the offshore water is just, it's irresponsible. We have this excessive issue that Councilmember Cowden, you brought up about the holes in the pipes. If our entire system is full of holes in pipes that are flooded every time it rains in the wettest place in the world, those systems are constantly going to be over capacity and they're constantly going to be violating. We need to look at real solutions. We kind of continually band-aid these things as we move forward, but the real solutions of funding like $1 billion, not 150 million, but like $1 billion worth of infrastructure upgrades to wastewater sewer lines, to moving the facility, is the only way out of this. And we should go for the highest and best standard, not the barely whatever we have to do to keep it low cost. Because the truth is if we invest up front, we're going to have better response afterwards. It shouldn't be by force. We shouldn't be in the situation where we're forced to, right? So if for some reason the DOH says, no, you don't have this permit, you're not going to be allowed to have outflow anymore, we're in an emergency situation where we have to come up with another solution. We shouldn't let it get to those points where we're in these emergency situations. I am born and raised on the east side of Kaua'i. This is my backyard. I have been concerned about this my entire life. I've smelt it and held my breath my entire life while I drive by that site. Because of my marine biology major, there's very few places I swim on Kaua'i. I really can't bring myself to swim in a lot of our beaches because of what I understand about the situation. I have already set up a meeting with the Hilo people, and I did that upon receiving this yesterday, to talk about some of the ways that they funded this, because and I said it earlier, but I really believe that the biggest hindrance that we have is not the desire for our team to want to do the right thing. It's about coming up and completing with those real solution funding opportunities, that large scale fund infrastructure on an unprecedented scale for the county of Kaua'i. I think it's absolutely critical that we start working on the PFAS conversation, and that we're also testing our wastewater for PFAS. And this is a big conversation that we just had at NACO too. And I mentioned to some of you guys about what I experienced at the NACO conference in the environmental committee, where they were talking about creating a resolution to protect the liability issues of county municipalities who were being unknowingly allowing stuff to enter into their wastewater and then outfalling it, or using it. For this example, it was sludge used on agricultural land. And the council member from Texas explained this whole situation about how they were being sued because of the wastewater. They didn't know that it was actually a DuPont chemical facility that was dumping PFAS into the wastewater. And then the county's responsible because they gave the wastewater to the farmer. The farmer spread it all over his land, and all his cattle were born mutated and dying, and because of PFAS levels that were so far off the charts that even people were astonished. So we have to be forward thinking. We can't wait until we start getting in trouble for the PFAS. We have to already be ahead of it. And dumping all that stuff into the ocean is just not a solution. Looking at stuff like the membranes, looking at stuff like the UV, even if it costs us more to preserve and protect our environment up front, those are the kind of investments that we need to be making in our society, and we need to be making in our community, and it'll pay off in the end. Some of these things are really shocking, highest numbers that Jill's seen, some of the highest numbers. I mean, compared to San Diego, you know how many more people are, we have to get past the cost and figure out a solution for that. out of all the meetings I've had over the last 6 months or so of trying to wrap my head around what's stopping and stalling these projects, it's continually coming back to that funding mechanism, which is why I'm suggesting specific positions that are dedicated to driving that funding home. But we need to do something today. And I'll reemphasize again that I don't like the idea of spending $70 million to update a facility for 10 years that we know we have to move. Let's completely alter what we're doing. Let's stop the outfall. Let's figure out a temporary solution while we immediately fund and replace a new system entirely. Because it's just continual Band-Aids that end up costing us more in the end than it's ever going to be worth. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to summarize there. But I really am concerned about this issue. I support a public hearing. But more so, I support really bold thinking and really out-of-the-box bold thinking about solutions that we can do that really show and make Kauai a leader, not somebody tailing behind where we really should be environmentally. So thank you very much, Chair, for including this on the agenda and for everybody's participation.
Anyone else? Not? I will go. Councilmember Holland, I share your frustration, and you just started.
Yeah.
You know, this has been an issue for a long time. And when I got back on the council in the 2022, you know, we technically started the term in early 2023. You know, two of the things that I requested updates on immediately was the landfill and wastewater. And the frustration is, you hit the nail on the head, Councilmember Holland. We're learning today that we're going to move towards 60 or 70 million on a plant that we know needs to be moved. We know. Bonnie brought up the Big Island article, and you know the reality on the Big Island was that they were getting fined. They were not dealing with the issue for a long time. Finally, the EPA came down and they had to enter into a consent decree to upgrade the system. So yeah, you're right. It is, and by the words of their environmental management director, it will be a costly lesson for the county. And we are headed down that road. Their phase one is going to cost $337 million. They anticipate phase two, the whole project, to be about $650 million over the next 10 years. Money, though. This is where I get frustrated. Money should never be the reason for us to not do the right thing. We talk, you know, and Donald, you know this, and we bring it up several times. You know, every budget we are asking wastewater, how much you need, how much you need. We know, and how much, we never get that number. See, it's this body that controls the budget. It's this body that should be having the discussion. Where will we cut to accommodate the needs that we need? This is a necessity for public health and safety, not convenience. But we have never had that discussion. We have never had a discussion. It's starting to come out now. That's why it's on the agenda, because sometimes that's the only way we can get a valid response. But the response is the same. You know, we're going to fix Wailua. We're going to fix Wailua. Dr. Berg brought up a good point, you know, and I was here when we did the studies on what was the best solutions. And that was back in, like he said, in 2013. 2015, the report was done with the recommendations, injection wells, and we never did it. Now, I don't like injection wells, but at the time, that was the recommendation that was made from the consultants, the experts, and we never did it. So today, as the Big Island said, unfortunately, due to deferred maintenance, we are spending more than $337 million to repair. Do we want to follow that path? No, we don't. About 4, 5, 6 months ago, maybe 5 months, Bernard and I, Councilmember Cavalli and I, started looking for solutions as far as how we got to move the site. And we've had numerous meetings with the administration, we've had numerous meetings with private landowners, we've had numerous discussions with private companies that can provide the solution. The solution is not building the same kind of plant at a different location. The solution is to build a plant with the technology that's going to have zero outfall into the ocean, zero. The solution is to provide a technology that's going to provide removal of toxins and PFAS. So we don't have to deal with all of this nonsense. That's the solution. Not just taking this old dog technology, putting it in a new site, and have to deal with the same problems. Is that going to cost money? You're damn right. Is that something that we're going to have to go probably get some federal funding, state funding, private funding through bond financing? Absolutely. But what happens if we don't do it? You know, I know a lot of people are not going to be around. People are going to retire, whatever, and the issue is going to still be a problem. But we cannot be thinking short term. We got to be thinking long term. We got to be thinking not even about our kids and grandkids. We got to be thinking about great grandkids now, and great grandkids. That's the kind of decisions we got to make. Not what's going to happen in the next 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. Let's just get through this. No, money should never be the reason. Because trust me, you guys all know. We just went through a budget session. That budget was so fat. With projects all over the place that don't even rise to the level of the need that this thing does. But we never had an opportunity as a council to discuss, hey, if we go this route, this is what it's going to cost. If we go this route, this is what it's going to cost. We never had that discussion, right? All we get is a presentation at budget. Hey, we need approval for this SRF loan for $40 million, $50 million for fix the broken rubbish thing down there. $66.5 million to repair or to bring us, hopefully bring us into compliance on a permit that is quite questionable. But again, I ask, what is the cost if we don't take action? What is the cost if we continue? I want to learn more. I think, Fern, you brought up a good thing. Cap those whatever you call it, outfall points, and can we use that somewhere else? I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an expert, but I worry about what's getting out in that ocean. I definitely want to support a public hearing on this because I think the Department of Health, by the way, they were invited. We did ask them to be here today. They could not be here today, which is unfortunate, but it was kind of last minute. And I appreciate the administration putting this together with a week's notice. Usually we give them more time, but I felt it was that important that we get this on today because of the issue with the public hearing. And we want to make sure that the Department of Health knows, and I'm hoping that my colleagues will follow. I'm even contemplating doing a resolution versus the letter. We can get that on the next council meeting. We may go down that route. I'll think about that. I have till tomorrow at 4:30 for the posting deadline. But this is serious. This is serious. And we need to give it the attention that it deserves. I can talk about the membrane technology again because that was an unsolicited ask of the expert, which I consider an expert. And she made it very clear that she said, in her words, that is the way to go. And we have provided, like I said, we provided an option for the land, for the technology, even the financing options for that technology. And apparently, reading this presentation from the administration, and that is not even being looked at. If you look at the timeline, end of 2025, hold public meetings to solicit support and feedback on the possible options. End of 2025. Why? We're going to wait months ago. Finalize the final site location. I mean, how are you going to go get solicit support from the community or from the council for anybody if you don't even know where this is going to go? So I think we got to make this a priority. I think this has to be the top priority, probably on the same line as the landfill, but nonetheless, this should be the top priority of the administration and start the movement to get this place relocated versus 61 million to go put the Band-Aids on what we have. So that's all I have.
Chair, I just want to follow up with what you just shared because I definitely know that the golf course will take more R2. They'll take pretty much everything we can provide. What we need to do is provide the pumps and the upgrades that the golf course needs to be able to take it.
Is it less than 61.5 million?
Definitely. It's for pumps and some irrigation stuff, I believe.
Okay. I mean, that's something we can explore. I think we should explore. Maybe we'll send it over to Parks and Public Works and find out what would it take to close the pipes to the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, we paid a huge water bill in that little time that it was shut off because of how much we use on the golf course, and they're constantly like, give it to us, because then we save a bunch of money on our water bill. It was like $10,000 or something more than what was expected.
We can pursue that.
Yeah.
Mr. Carvalho?
I mean, we've talked about this numerous times, and Chair knows on this, but just bottom line is that right now, it's administration and our county council got us connect. And that's the biggest part. Okay, anything else? Good discussion, everybody. Hallelujah, great job. However, nothing is more, we've been talking about this for so long. And there's so many different solutions and technology that is at the forefront, but if we don't get it together today, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to go into more details because we've done this over and over again, and I'm very happy we're at this point. So let's keep moving forward and look forward to more solutions in a very short time frame, but between the county council and our administration across the street that work together. Okay, done.
Just quickly, Chair. The only thing you forgot to mention is I know that both you and Councilmember Carvalho have also been in discussions with the state DHHL, and we definitely have a willing partner in the state DHHL as far as where potentially we could be locating the next plant.
Well, I didn't want to mention the DHHL, but since you're Hawaiian and you mentioned DHHL, I will confirm that the DHHL is ready to move with the donation of a land. I just spoke to them recently, so thank you.
Well, and the reason I mention it too is because it's for affordable housing, for more housing for our homesteaders, right? We need all of that goes hand in hand.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
It's definitely a win-win. So, so I will again, to not violate the sunshine law, I'm going to think about whether we do a resolution. I definitely will be sending a letter, but I'll get with the clerk and see if we can get that together, and then we'll have the discussion next week. Okay, if there's no more discussion.